Hello and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. My name is Kevin Castley. Tonight we're streaming to YouTube and Twitch. If you have not yet, it would be awesome if you could go and follow this channel over on Twitch. We have a few people in the channel already viewing this, so thank you for being here. Soon we are going to be joined by Reese, Nightmare Fuel. He has said that he is interested in coming on tonight. This is going to be a bit of a shorter stream than usual. We went about 3 hours last night and a similar amount of time before. I try to keep these streams to around the 2-hour mark. Today, I'm aiming for about 90 minutes or so. There's still a lot to talk about. Currently, we're coming up on about 200,000 coronavirus deaths worldwide. That's the CCP virus, as Chris Chappell over at China Uncensored terms it. And I think that that's an apt term. In the United States, coming up closer to 50,000 in terms of total deaths. Of course, the worldwide mark is assuming that communist China is being honest with their numbers, which we know is completely not the case. So the actual death toll is quite a bit higher than that. In Canada, we're coming up on about 2,000 deaths from this. And in the United States, at least, there are some states that are moving over the course of the latter half of this week and early half of next week to essentially reopen business as usual. And so we're going to see large spikes in fatalities over the course of the next month or so, given that this has about a 2-week incubation period. And a lot of people tend to die within 2 weeks if they're going to die of contracting it. And so total mess, absolute mess. Additionally, today is the 21st of April. This is the Holocaust Remembrance Day, where we acknowledge and, pay tribute and honor those who were lost in the Holocaust against the Nazis, essentially. We live in a world in which there are still people who deny, mitigate, apologize, rationalize on behalf of the National Socialists. And anti-Semitism is still rampant. It is still a disease. It's still prevalent throughout much of the world. And it still dominates the fringes of the far right and the far left. And we can see this. Just look on Twitter, for example. You can look at, Corbynism in the United Kingdom. You can look at a lot of the more alt-right elements in the United States, the groypers and whatnot. It's often hard to tell them apart. What they share so often is a complete hatred of Jews. And tonight I had titled this stream Boycott, Divest, Sanction, Red China. And you'll know that the BDS movement, the Boycott, Divest, Sanction movement, is something which has been promoted and campaigned for against the state of Israel, mostly by the radical left in the United States and other countries. But as I mentioned, the far right shares that derision and that hatred of Jews. And when we look at how some of the leaders of the movement, including Ilhan Omar, talk about it, they talk about it as, this is a necessary thing. This is something that everybody should be doing. We should just boycott Israel and whatnot. But then when you propose implementing sanctions upon the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, Iran, an ambitious, aspiring to be nuclear power, and Reese has just entered the studio. We'll welcome him in a minute here. I'm just going to wrap this line of reasoning up. When you propose getting tough on Iran, these exact same people, such as Ilhan Omar, will argue and counter against it, arguing that would be economic warfare. And so by that the transitive nature of that, you can definitely infer, therefore, that they are admitting that BDS is economic warfare and that they're doing it against Israel by opposing sanctions against Iran on the grounds of being opposed to waging economic warfare against people. They are thereby admitting that they are for that against the state of Israel, which, and we've talked about this on the program before, the state of Israel, of all states that are out there, I mean, that has arguably the most legitimacy of any. I mean, we've seen what's happened throughout the last several millennia when Jews did not have a state of their own in which they could be free from being persecuted and being victim to pogroms all the way up to the Holocaust in the 1930s and 40s. And so what I propose is that we do engage in economic warfare and that we target that economic warfare against our enemies and not our allies. Israel is an ally, but the means that these haters on the left and some on the right are proposing to do against Israel, we should most certainly be doing against Red China. As I mentioned, the death toll in the United States is coming up closer to 50,000. There's no way that Beijing can be allowed to get away with this. There's no way that business can continue as usual in the free trade sense of things. Oh, they'll just make cheap stuff for us and we'll borrow money from them. That cannot go on anymore. The world has to change after this. And with that being said, we welcome our friend here, Reese of Nightmare Fuel, the Prince of Warmongers. Welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very, that was eloquent, and you said pretty much everything I would have said. So I co-sign all of that, obviously. And yeah, it's a pretty blatant, you say we shouldn't be doing economic sanctions against allies and we should be doing them against enemies. So many people out themselves and take their masks off when they are come out in favor of BDS, because that's what they're saying. They're saying we are not allies of America, we are not allies of Israel, we are not allies of the Western world, we're not allies of NATO. They're allies with Iran, certainly, Syria, Russia, but Israel. Now Israel crosses the line. That's the that's the real problem in our world. Not China though. And I guarantee, because there will be a serious talk of China facing economic consequences, and there will be the same people decrying it. I'm pretty sure Ilhan Omar already did, because that's her shtick at this point. She's in favor. She's one of the most vocal and prominent Americans in favor of, sanctioning Israel. But when it comes to Turkey, when it comes to Iran, when it comes to China, of course, she's not in favor of sanctioning them, because she'll claim that it is harmful to the civilian population in those countries, as if they expect us to believe they care about the civilians in those countries. I've talked about that pretty extensively in videos. I'm just making sure our connection is still good.
Oh, it's still good on here as far as I can tell.
Okay. I'm so paranoid because, like, I feel like this app specifically targets me. Like, I'll be talking and it's like, that's the perfect time. We'll stop you. We'll stop you from we'll stop your spiel, but when you're listening, you get to hear everything.
Maybe
StreamYard's run by Russians, clearly.
maybe it was the fact that they just wanted me to pay up and get premium, and now that I've got premium, they'll let it slide.
Oh, I see. That's it's a good marketing strategy, I suppose. But I mean, that's the thing. I've talked about this pretty extensively in some of the videos I've made that referenced Iran, for example. So we have two options here. We have an option A, where Iran, a country such as Iran, their government faces legitimate consequences from other nations. They are economically discouraged from following in the same footsteps they've currently been going in, they're facing some form of punishment, and potentially civilians will suffer some kind of economic downfall from that. And really, that's the government's fault too. The government, they spend money. It's a war machine government. They could be spending money. They have plenty of money to be dividing among their people and helping them, but they choose not to do that, and somehow we get the blame for that. Or we could live in a world where the Iranian government faces no consequences to their actions, and the people still suffer and are oppressed and are subject to Sharia law. And then we in the free privileged world just kind of sit back and pretend that everything's okay. And that doesn't make sense to me from a moral standpoint, from a strategic standpoint. There are many things that the government from Tehran has done that warrant economic and political consequences from other actors in the region and actors such as ourselves. But people who are against sanctions would have you believe otherwise, for the most ludicrous reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the sort of thing that when we're talking about Israel in particular, Hillel Nuer, I believe is his name on Twitter as well as on Facebook, will often post statements from the United Nations. He'll have statements about basically the General Assembly votes. He'll have the actual voting record of states and whatnot, and it'll show that the UN, and he's done a lot of reporting on this, that the UN overwhelmingly disproportionately condemns Israel for quote unquote human rights abuses, whereas North Korea, Iran, Assad's regime, Maduro, they all either receive one or two condemnations, or in some cases zero, whereas Israel's at like several dozen to 100, depending on the season. And you're like, I mean, the idea, there are a lot of people who say that the United Nations is somehow like the most reputable of agencies, that we should be beholden to them, that the future and the hope of humanity lies in this body, this the most multilateral of frameworks possible. But I've always said, ever since its inception in 1945, it was a compromise between good and evil, being the West and Stalin. And we see that you can just stack up these assemblies with states that are illiberal or authoritarian, and every state gets an equal vote at the General Assembly. I mean, the vote of Syria has as much weight as the vote of the USA there. I mean, it's a one state, one vote system. And so it's not a surprise then that Israel comes out to be the worst of everybody, because a lot of dictatorships out there don't really like Israel too much. So
Of course they don't. The United States, no, sorry, the United Nations, they're multilateral to the point of being useless at best and morally bankrupt at worst. And I don't have any faith in the body at this point. They don't really have the power to do anything. So their condemnations don't mean anything. They're like little they're slaps on the wrists, basically. Like what are the consequences that Israel is going to face? Yeah, true. It is shitty that Israel is singled out time and time again by this body that is stacked to the brim with states that should not be a part of a reputable world assembly. We should look at certain nations and say, you have no place here. But at the United Nations, everyone's welcome. Everyone is seen as an equal, and it doesn't matter what your government has done, you will be put on the Human Rights Council. That's just where they'll put you. And there's no self-reflection, there's no sign of self-awareness from those jokers, and they have no real authority to do anything. This is a common line from a lot of our political opponents, is to cite international law. Oh my God, you violated international law. We don't live in the Star Trek universe, guys. International law doesn't mean shit. it means literally nothing. What are the consequences? What's going to happen? What is the world governing body is NATO, realistically. That's the one with actual power and the ability to do things, not the United Nations. And the United Nations, they're not an ally in our fight against the adversaries of America. They're not an ally in our fight against illiberalism and authoritarianism. They cozy up to it all the time. They legitimize it, enable it, and normalize it. And fuck the United Nations. Honestly, I have no time or patience for them. If honestly, if I was if I was really feeling crazy, I'd say we should get out of it. But it's probably for the best we're there for now to have some sort of voice. But it's embarrassing to be
Yeah.
associated with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that it's the tenure of John Bolton and Nikki Haley as ambassadors to the UN is the sort of thing that for the United States at least is the sort of thing that you really see the voice of reason in a cesspool of illiberalism.
Mm-hmm.
And John Bolton had remarked a long time ago now, but it still rings true to this day that you could take 24 floors off of the UN building in New York and just get rid of all the offices, fire the staff and everything there, and tell them to go packing back to their home countries, and the world would be no better off, no worse off. You know that it's essentially
Yeah.
irrelevant. And he's a very cold and bold kind of guy. He doesn't have an ounce of warmth in his heart for the dictators of the world and their bootlickers. He doesn't care what they think of him, right? So he can be honest about that. And Nikki Haley has equally harsh words with respect to the United Nations and those who value the UN as and uphold it as somehow objective bastion of justice and whatnot. I've had people, for example, today on my main page, and in response to several pro-Iraq war memes that I had shared, say, well, it was a violation of international law to remove Saddam Hussein, and it's like international law doesn't mean anything, and these are the same people that would be against the intervention and are against the intervention in Korea in 1950 to 53. They think that that was U.S. imperialism to push the North Koreans out of the South. And they often talk about how the U.S. leveled the North, left nothing more than a one-story building standing in the country, destroyed all the villages, and talk about how the U.S. had no right to do that. But of course, that was signed off by the United Nations. It's not like the UN has always made the wrong call. The UN then did make the right call because, ironically, the Soviets had boycotted the UN at that point. So the US was actually able to get something through. But you're right about NATO, as NATO has the power and has action behind itself. But of course, NATO isn't the only party with power. The Eurasian Economic Union has power. Obviously, what China's doing, their bloc has power. It's just that the NATO is the one with overwhelming force and the moral high ground, with the exception of Hungary and Turkey. But even though then those are minor relative to what Russia and China do. So,
oh yeah, those are drops in the ocean. They're like barely worth mentioning if we're having a conversation about China and Russian imperialism.
mhm.
It's not even close to the same amount of concern we should have over those issues. It's just not. I wanted to get back to the Israel thing really quick. I find it personally so insulting, the support of the BDS movement, for the obvious reasons, because of the anti-Semitism and how toxic the group is, and how the rhetoric that's come from them since their founding, but also because this is another case of there are real problems in the world. There are actual nations that are worth sanctioning, actual nations that are worth boycotting. China is one of them. Israel is not. What the fuck has Israel done? What is this obsessive like just
Oh, we've lost Reese's audio connection. Reese should be back momentarily. Um, to kind of pick up where we were speaking, I do want to go to Natalie Avalon, who has stated in the chat here. She's posted a quote by the late and great Christopher Hitchens. Quote, anti-Semitism is the lowest common denominator of humanity, end quote. And yeah, that's 100% true. I've spoken before in my videos against the Groypers and Nick Fuentes, where I've talked about how anti-Semitism, the meme of Jews bad, is the oldest meme in the playbook. It's the oldest meme around. It's the most unoriginal, uncreative, plebeian type meme that you could ever think of. I mean, it's so old, and Reese, of course, has lost the connection, but oh, and there he is. He's back in the studio. We'll bring him back here. But yeah, to just kind of wrap up that, yeah, no, definitely, Jews bad is for sure the oldest meme in human history. So
See, I knew it. See, they're the Russians. They listen in. I start spilling some truth, and they ban me. They censor me.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's the reason. It's not my shit internet. I was saying, I don't know how much you heard, but I was saying that I find this support for BDS insulting for the obvious reasons, but the most insulting being there are real problems in this world. There are real nations that deserve to be sanctioned, deserve to be boycotted. Israel is not one of them. And it would be bad enough if people were inventing problems like Israel is the problem in the world and the problematic nation in the Middle East. But these same people who support BDS, like Ilhan Omar, are pro-Iran and pro-Turkey and pro-China. So it's not even a matter of that I acknowledge the world's actual problems and I'm going to invent an additional problem to distract us from those. No, they're saying the real problems of this world are not problems at all. And in fact, those nations should be our friends. We should be working with them against global Jewry. That's what they're saying.
Absolutely. It's a sort of thing that the measures that those who are the proponents of the BDS movement advocate, they basically amount to what Anthony Roberto here it brings up is the Truman Doctrine, which is, contain the Soviets, do not allow them to spread, do not do business with them, sanction anybody who trades with them, that sort of thing. Yet they want to do that to an American ally. It would be like let's BDS Canada or let's BDS the UK. It's like let's BDS Israel. Like what? I mean, I support the proposals against Red China, right? And yeah, we need to get tough on communist China. My worry here is that after this is all done, even if 1 million or 2 million Americans die, people are more or less going to go back to business as usual and just have some harsh words and some strict condemnations. But the trade will continue. The Belt and Road will continue. Pakistan's still going to be able to trade with China. Switzerland's still going to be able to trade with China, and nothing's going to come of it. That's my worry there. Is that we just let it slide, So
it's a possibility, but it's tough to say. There is, from what we can tell, there's a lot of anti-Chinese, rhetoric at the moment, but that doesn't necessarily amount to any worthwhile or lasting policy. I get that, and I get the concern, especially considering our history with them. We shouldn't have been this chummy with them for this long. It shouldn't have taken. I know that we mentioned this on a previous stream. It shouldn't have taken something this heinous for us to reevaluate our relationship with China. But that is unfortunately where we're at. And I do hope that something is done about it. We will have to see. We'll have to see if there's actually a change of leadership in this country. If Trump stays in charge, I doubt. I seriously doubt much would be done. I really
Yeah.
do. He's way too chummy with Winnie the Flu. It would nothing would happen there. Plus, I mean, he has a track record of being chummy with every piece of shit on the planet. Like, what are people expecting? Oh, like this is the one guy he's gonna draw the line at. Kim's fine, Putin's fine, the Taliban. Yeah, you can come for a dinner invite, but gee, no, can't have you.
Yeah. See, my worry too, though, is that even if Joe Biden type figure, or Joe Biden specifically, I guess in this case, now that we know that he's the nominee, even if Joe Biden wins, my worry is that the corporate sort of establishment, the lobbyists, all this sort of pressure that's out there would basically make it so that trade continues as per normal. I'm not sure too much about how forceful Biden would be. I know obviously Biden would be more forceful than Trump. It's just, I guess the thing is that I think that there needs to be a severe response to this. And so even if you did some movement in the direction of getting tough on them, I don't think it would be like appropriate. I think you need to do really almost radical measures to basically get back at communist China. I know, like Henry has talked about reparations before. That alone wouldn't work, but that's something. I would like to see something of that nature, or just a full outright blockade and complete divestment from China. Bring the factories back to America, those processes, or move them to India, or a bit of both. But we can't just have the status quo continue.
If oh yeah, basically it goes beyond America too. Like if we really want to hurt China, and we want to stop their aspirations in the tracks of wanting to be a superpower, the whole world needs to be joined together with us on this. We can't just, it can't just be America. It really can't. Yeah, America can do that with Saddam. We can't just do that with China. We need more political backing. And I don't know about that. I'm not as versed in that, but I do suspect that a lot of nations will not be on board with that. So no matter what we're looking for, I think we're given who we are, we're bound to be disappointed in the
Yeah.
response because it's not going to be enough. It's really not. And China will do everything in its power to try to ingratiate itself back to the global community. Try to say, guys, it was just a meme. It was a joke. Come on, let bygones be bygones.
It's just a plague, bro.
Just a plague. Hey, we've caused a couple of those. It's just kind of our thing.
Yeah, literally.
It's just kind of our thing. Like, you gotta let it go. Are you being racist? Come on, no need for this.
I mean, that's kind of where the meme came from. I can just kind of see Winnie the Flu coming out there to the Central Committee and giving like a press conference or something and saying, to the world, I know that 17 million people died from this in 2020, but the businesses are open again, the gyms are open again, everything's fine. It could have been the Black Death again, right? So trade with us. It was just, at least it wasn't a plague. It was just a flu, bro. Like,
it was different, man.
We could have gone Black Plague on you again, but because that came out of China.
You should be really thanking us because we could have done so much worse.
Yeah, that's basically what I think that they'll go in the direction. Like, I know for sure that Putin would do something like that. China's a bit more of like a central committee type system, so they'd probably have like a coordinated response. But if she's able to like speak kind of off the cuff on it, I could see him basically saying, like, hey man, I mean, look at what happened in the 1300s. It could have been way worse. That came from here too. I mean, what made in China, right? I mean, what a meme. But
it reminded me because I saw today. I don't have access to it right now because I'm actually logged into the app through Twitter. But there was, I believe, he was like a spokesman for the Chinese Communist Party. He was some kind of spokesman. And to divert attention away from their handling of this issue and their blatant cover-up and making the world a less safe place today. They brought up that, oh, well, don't you remember when AIDS were discovered in America? Unbelievable. As if, as if that's somehow a slight against us for being aware that existed. As if that didn't exist in other places. As if that
Wow.
was just something that America cooked up. American AIDS. I don't even have the words for it. It's too stupid.
Wow. I just want to go to a comment by Wyatt Claypool here. He says that people's ignorance and weakness led them to join the BDS movement. I've seen many people buying the BDS rhetoric because they won't stand up to people with fake sob stories easily debunked. And I think that's one thing that the BDS movement, by and large, has done is a lot of the people that kind of supported or will like stuff that's in support of the BDS movement aren't exactly politically minded people necessarily. They just want to be seen as woke or whatever, not seen as a shitlord. But they don't, they want to impress people, I guess. It's not something that they really think about. Like if you live out here, if you live out on the West Coast, I mean, if you say you support Israel, that kind of raises eyebrows. So,
I mean, it would raises eyebrows even just online. Even in these, like, I put out a tweet today talking about, the Holocaust remembrance and basically, sending well wishes to my Israeli and Jewish followers, of which there are many, as is noted, as is also a meme. Like, oh, you're a follower of Nightmare Fuel. Are you a Jew by chance? Like,
are you a Ziocon?
You're a Ziocon. But it was, I even had this totally random person just, they happened to find it because I guess someone they knew retweeted my tweet, but then I have to deal with this person like, oh, why did you have to mention Israel? Do you know how evil Israel is? Like, oh, they, think about what they did. They forced the Palestinians out of their homes.
Oh man.
And just like, oh, dude, your knowledge of history is like just whack. Like you do understand, like this is the Jewish homeland. Like they were kicked out initially. That's how history works. This is not the Palestinian homeland. Fuck no. Are you kidding me?
History.
This is not like, and I'm not talking about the Bible or some shit. I'm talking about like actual history. I'm talking about the actual history of this group of people who were forced out and have been forced out many a time by many groups of people. It's not like Palestinians just sprouted out of the ground in Israel, in Jerusalem. No, it's Jerusalem. It's fucking Jerusalem. You think Palestinians built that shit? They didn't.
Oh man.
They didn't. They added some shit to it. But no, that was not this is not initially their place. Fucking moron.
Reese, that does raise something I don't think we've really talked about before, and I'm not sure on your opinion of this, but what do you think of the United States recognizing Jerusalem as the official capital of Israel? What do you make of that?
It is what it is. I think it's more of just a symbolic gesture, and it obviously works well with the religious right here, and will stoke some of the more traditional types in Israel. But it rubs people. The reason why it's important is because a lot of Palestinians and Palestinian activists believe Jerusalem is theirs. So like, it's not like Tel Aviv or something like that. Obviously they think all of Israel is theirs, but Jerusalem has more.
Oh, we lost Reese's audio connection again. We'll go back to that once Reese's audio issues resolved. I'm just gonna look through the chat currently. The Gun Shark says there's a term for that in reference to basically what Wyatt Claypool was mentioning, and my assessment of it. He says we call them useful idiots, and that's right. I mean, because a lot of people will embrace very bad things, very malicious things, without necessarily doing it in a malicious way. They just want to be woke. They just want to go along with the bandwagon and not rock the wagon or whatever. They just want to be socially accepted. And if you live on the West Coast, or if you live in, I guess, like a lot of the East Coast too, in urban areas and whatnot, in order to be socially accepted, you have to agree that Israel is like the worst thing that's ever existed in the history of forever. And as Reese was saying, in order to buy into their narrative, for their narrative to have any weight, history has to begin in like 1946 or 1947. So,
yeah, no, that's true. I before I got cut off, I was just saying when it comes to moving the capital to Jerusalem, whether or not what it accomplished politically, it did expose to anyone who could even possibly deny it at this point the true malicious spirit in a lot of the Palestinian communities against Jews, against Israel, because they attacked in response to that. That was a big deal. That was a big story, and it was some real scary shit, honestly, because they were so righteously angered over this transgression of taking their city, for the Jews taking their city for their own.
Oh man, we they came back. We got a frog in the chat. Frog in the chat.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. If we get a gang of frogs or whatever, they're getting banned, but one frog is sufficient laughter fodder for right now.
Yeah, no. He can stay. I can. I'm not even looking at the chat, and I could probably tell you what he's saying.
You could probably tell it has something to do with
there's such a broken record. It's not even worth it.
This one though it's not. He doesn't specifically mention Israel. He doesn't even use the triple parentheses. But I do want to go to Zeus first, because yeah, I know his name isn't pronounced Zeus, but it's kind of a meme now.
That's a meme here, though. We call him Zeus.
Zeus. Yeah, we call Zeus and we call Vaush. So we got, he says in the chat, he says, Jaeger, log off so you can open up enough bandwidth for Reese to stream from your state. And that's such a good meme, because like you're making the idea that like there's only like 5 or 6 IP addresses in the whole state.
Yeah, Jaeger, get off. You're using on my bandwidth, bro.
You're using the bandwidth. Oh man, I bet all those times before, like when the audio went down and stuff, it was because Jaeger was like watching like Fortnite or something, or because like on Twitch, he's on Twitch right now. I think he was on Twitch, and like that's well, I mean, Valorant's big on Twitch, but back in the day, Fortnite was like all that was really streaming on there. And Vosh got banned, so, or whatever. But
well, that Twitch is not entirely worthless then. they have some redeeming qualities in that department.
Well, they at least demonetized him, I guess, because he literally advocated for a preemptive nuclear strike against Israel. So,
see, that's just the establishment hackery happening over there at Twitch HQ.
Oh man, I do want to go to the frog though, because it's been a while. Honestly, it's been a while. I was expecting, like we've always kind of had them lurking around and stuff, and they still obviously like spam hate to my page and my Twitter and stuff. But they came back. They came back to the show. I'm going to highlight the comment because it's kind of goofy. We got this guy here, Dan Wolf. I'm pretty sure I remember him from the Groiper insurrection days. He says the thing I hate about neocons. They are all bird victim looking like, again, they can't even grammar. So he says the thing I hate about neoconservatives, they are all burn victim looking husks of a human being who are just shilling for all the worst parts of big government. Biggest sellouts ever. Disgust. But
not even disgusting, just disgust.
disgust, just disgust.
This disgusts me.
I love how, like, I'm not a grammar Nazi. I know grammar. I never really get on people. I don't get on friends grammar or whatever, but it is worth pointing out with the frogs that he uses a semicolon in place of a colon. That's kind of funny. We got, if we want to get pedantic and stuff here, the frogs were never the brightest, but he says here though, biggest sellouts ever. And then he goes on to talk about big government. But I guarantee you, this type of guy, this way of thinking, he's most likely to stand in agreement with the Liberty Hangout people who say that they'd rather have like a Catholic dictatorship than like a liberal democracy or whatever. They'd rather have
that's not big government. See, that doesn't count because it's right wing.
Yeah, it's far right, or they'd rather have socialism. As like Nick Fuentes even said, he'd rather have Stalin and full communism in America than allow immigration. So that's a thing. So it's not even a right thing. It's an anti-American thing.
I'd say it's better to be a grammar Nazi than an actual Nazi. Personally.
Oh, for sure. But
this guy almost assuredly supports Trump as well, who is a blatant authoritarian who believes people should be punished by the federal government for burning American flags.
Yeah, well, he's a wannabe authoritarian. I mean, fortunately, there is a constitution in the United States, and fortunately, there are courts that have resisted his encroachments upon that, right? But if he had it his way, for sure, he even said it himself. He would like to be president for life, So.
Hey, just like G. No wonder they like each other.
Well, that's what he said. That's what he was inspired by after he had cake with Xi. He's like, well, did you know they just made him president for life over there? He's like, maybe we should try that here. And of course,
and then he wonders why people don't like him.
well, his surrogates came out and said, well, he was obviously joking. He's a reality TV guy. He likes to get the ratings and stuff, and it was a joke, bro.
Of course, it's always a meme. Yeah, nothing serious.
And it reminds me of that video by Kraut. Well, it wasn't a video by Kraut, but somebody took some snippets of Kraut talking, where Kraut's just like, just a meme, and it's like pictures of like Nazis talking about how they want to gas Jews and stuff, and it's like it's all just a meme, bro. Like, it's not like they're serious.
Oh yeah, like why would people take the president and what he says seriously? I mean, obviously we should just let the president joke around, and it's vague enough so we're all, questioning, like, was that a joke? Was that serious? If it makes us uncomfortable enough and it's indefensible, then it was a joke. But if we can somehow twist it, yeah, then it was serious.
I'm so behind with the chat right now, but I am trying to highlight
the same guy he threatened you, by the way.
Oh, we're getting to that. I'm still at where Wyatt Claypool is at 9:37 p.m. and we're at 9:43 here, at least in Pacific time. But so we'll get to that. We got some more fun coming, my friends. We've got Wyatt Claypool here. He writes, since many of the hardcore proponents of BDS are Middle Eastern, the woke racists will assume Israel is bad because the people who said it are minorities. And that's so true. That's so true. I can't tell you how many times
Israelis are minorities.
Exactly. Israelis are minorities. They were almost completely wiped out. And these people will conduct apologetics and stuff of those who worked with Hitler, collaborated with Hitler, or just in some cases, most extreme, like David Duke. And he, of course, endorsed Ilhan Omar, just say, Hitler did the right thing, basically. And of course, he supports BDS. And so, of course, he's not in the woke crowd. He's just an outright racist and stuff and an outright Nazi. But as far as this goes, there are so many people who will take on like the Edward Said arguments of like, if white people try to have any role in the Middle East, or if Western countries try to have any role in the Middle East, that is Orientalism and imperialism and all this. And basically it's their culture, bro. And they're meant to be ruled by despots because they're brown. And who are you with your Western settler colonialism to tell them any other way? And you're like, I mean, these people look at the shining beacons on the hill of Israel and America and Britain and Canada, and they see filth and they see disgust and they see racism and they see bigotry, but then they look to countries such as Iran and Syria where Jews get lynched, yeah, by the thousands, and they look at those and like, oh, there's no racism, bro, they're just oppressed minorities. Like what? Like what?
Countries where Jews are not allowed to be at all.
I mean,
like
they
it doesn't matter if you're woke or a neo-Nazi. The support of BDS, it ultimately has the same goal, and that's the weakening of the Jewish state.
mm-hmm.
That's what they want. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Yeah, we could say that some people who are involved are worse than others, but really, if we're talking, intentions matter. I do believe in that. We've talked about that before, but they matter up to a point. They're not an excuse for the most horrific result that would basically put you in the same camp as neo-Nazis, even if you have amazing intentions.
Oh man. Oh man, I got to the threat. What a clown ball, man. I will go to Natalie's comment first, though. She writes, the Palestinian claim to Israel hinges on the false Islamic claim that Muhammad rode a winged horse to heaven from Jerusalem. Muhammad never set foot in Israel. He died long before. Oh yeah, that's so funny. I mean, obviously there are religious claims from all sides in terms of the right wing that's there to that land, but we can look at the actual history, and as Reese points out, it was Jews that resided there. That the whole Palestinian thing is a newer meme. So but if you'd like to go into that in a bit more detail, feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the Graper dudes.
Yeah, I mean, they specifically lived in the land of Judea and obviously faced a lot of persecution thanks to the uprising of Islam. Obviously, Muhammad didn't ride a flying horse because horses don't fly, and that's a fucking ridiculous thing. Like, where's Mehdi Hassan to tell us about flying horses, basically?
Oh man!
Like the bigger, like, here's a bigger thing. Like, the Middle East as a whole was taken over forcefully by the Islamic cult. It wasn't just the land that was Israel and now is Israel. No, it was the entire Middle East was taken over by Muslims. That's the history of that area. And it used to not be that way. It used to be a land of great innovation and religious pluralism, and it's not that anymore at all.
Oh man,
it is quite the opposite. You can read the comment.
Yeah, we're going to highlight the comment here. We've got a bitter incel follower of I assume Nick Fuentes. That's who sent all these guys over back in the day in like October, and they never really left. But they've been lurking and hating and everything. But we got Dan Wolf here, and he says, Kevin, you speak like someone who has never been punched in the mouth, but it is okay. We have your remedy. Dun dun dun. And then dirty.
What a badass.
What a badass. He just threatened to punch me in the mouth from Mom's basement. Dirty Dancer says peaceful ethnic cleanser threatens violence. And then Wyatt Claypool writes at Dan Wolf, what, you're going to steal your mom's car to come and try to take a swing at Kevin? And it's like, oh man, even their daddy, Nick Fuentes. That's the thing that's so funny about this. Even their daddy, Nick Fuentes, who makes like $2,000 in some streams, even he lives with mom in his basement or in her basement. Like, that's the thing with these guys. They all are like against women being allowed to work, but their entire need existence is predicated upon their mothers having employment. So
I wonder what Nick's mom thinks of his work.
Well, he did talk about that in one of the streams that I was watching of his to see what the Grapers were up to, and he said that both his mom and his grandmother were both red pilled and pilled on the Jewish question. So there you go. So
What the family reunions we're missing out on.
it's
Oh
like,
no.
I mean, I'm just imagining like family time at the Fuentes residence, and it's just all like, oh, did you hear about how the Jews tried to undermine Hitler for like the 8,000th time? And it's like, what a boring meme. Like, it's just, I mean, again, that's what it all comes back to. They can't get laid, so they blame it on Jews. Like, it's like speaking an incel. It must be the damn Jews. And it's like, I got news, dudes. Even if they succeeded and created their little ethno state, all these guys would still be losers in that ethno state. Like I've said this before. Like, even if the far right and all these guys manage to do their little putsch, guess who's going to be the elites in that system? Billionaires and really successful entrepreneurs in this system. It's not going to be 4chan boys in mom's basement threatening to punch people in the mouth. Like people that are successful here would find a way to also be successful there. These guys can't even succeed in the West. Like the easiest system to be prosperous in human history, they can't do that. So how could they manage it in a dictatorship? So
Hey man, you don't know. The gamers will rise up. Just give it time.
Man, this is kind of a meme, but it's something that we do need to make happen. I want the Hawks to rise up. Like, we need Hawks to rise up. So Hawks rise up.
I honestly feel a bit optimistic about it in certain respects, because even among communities that we have disagreements with, I will see mildly hawkish posts every now and then. I see it from certain progressives. Like, well, I don't know if he's so much a progressive, but Liberal Sanity Project is definitely a hawk and has a lot of clout with progressives when he's not pissing them off. Even among some of the neoliberals, they're taking issue with the anti-war rhetoric. Even our friend Nutso Liz was tweeting about that today.
Oh, well. I've considered her cringe and blocked. I didn't see what she tweeted. What did she tweet?
You're not missing out on much, but basically, they take issue with this guy. He's a guy called Joshua for Congress. I guess he's some nobody. He's running for Congress. No one actually cares about him, and he's not going to win. But I think he did a debate with Destiny, perhaps.
Okay.
And on his, basically his official website platform for his campaign, his foreign policy section includes a bullet point that says "End the wars." Like, that's his literal stance. And even Liz was making fun of that. Like, that's based. Come on.
Wait, she was making fun of that. I thought her whole thing was cancel neocon Kevin, that
See,
sort of thing.
the thing is, I think that they are just woefully misinformed on what neoconservatism even is. And it doesn't mean that we need to be friends with them or get along with them, because they can be very disingenuous people. But I see them more as misled than as quite as bad as some of the other people we have to deal with. I still think that they're a bit more.
Oh, we lost Reese's audio connection again. Well, we'll go to then. Oh, Reese is back.
Oh, sorry. See, the Russians are at it again. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Ruskies. It's the Ruskies.
The damn Ruskies. I was saying that, we have our disagreements with people like Nutso Liz, and we can say, yeah, she's disingenuous, and yeah, I mean, she's obsessed with you in a stupid way that I don't understand. But I'm making the case. I don't think they're as bad as like the Kremlin Kyle types.
Oh, yeah.
I think that you have a better chance of reaching these kind of more toward the center people. And we can even debate, like, oh, are they really in the center, or are they more like center left?
Yeah.
It's debatable. I think that some of their economics would put them at odds with many factions on the left.
but they don't really have a defined ideology for their group either. It's more just a group of individuals who they like to share memes and fuck around. Like they're not an actual serious, they're not like a serious philosophy group or anything who's like really contemplating the purpose of our institutions.
The simp philosophers.
The simp. Well, that's actually a great band name, and
No, I was gonna say the philosopher simps. Like that could be a new band. Could be a new band.
The philosopher simps. Yeah, the simp groups.
They do cloud rap. They do cloud rap on like some of the more hipstery type platforms. They do cloud rap and that's what they do.
Well, good for them. The thing is, like, I don't think I have the same burning hatred of them that you do, but I saw a post from a Rose account today that owned them, that owned Globe Twitter.
Oh, what? They got owned from the left?
They got owned by a Rose. And
they got owned by a Rose.
They got poked by the thorns, and basically the guy said he looked like some bearded hipster, and he said like, oh, for Globe Twitter, being pro-establishment and pro-horny is not an ideology. And I was like, damn, that really cut deep. They don't have an ideology. They're not even here for a real reason.
You're so right, because you made the point before that they're just kind of like contrarians and kind of like a clique, and their whole thing to be edgy is that they support the establishment and stuff, because like people can call us an establishment shill or whatever, but like we would be the first to list our disagreements with the consensus over in DC.
Yeah, we're so pro-establishment. We were bad-mouthing the United Nations at the beginning of the stream.
We were bad. Well, we were talking about how the United States has been very, very lazy at best on China for the last 30 years. I mean, like I've said before, I understand why Nixon up till Reagan traded with them, because the Soviets were the enemy. But from George H.W. Bush up to Trump now, it's been Democrats and Republicans who are just like, oh, we can make a quick buck. So if we're establishment shills, then we're bad at it.
I'm not getting my Soros check fast enough.
Not getting the Soros check. I don't think it's coming. I think he must have rendered it null and void or whatever. But man, they got owned. They got owned then, because I said before about them that they're actually just basically a bunch of socialists or social democrats who want to give market terminology to make themselves like have appeal to like the center or whatever. But at the end of the day, it goes beyond that. They don't even really have an ideology, because they move quickly. Like, it's not like they're like Milton Friedman fans, and it's also not like they're like Karl Marx fans. They move around, and they move as a herd. And they don't like me, and they got a lot of memes, and they come after people that I get along with and tell them to unfollow me. So they don't really like me, and there's that. So I'm kind of biased there against them. But I do want to go to.
I did comment on the Liz thing. Like I doubt she'll see it, and I doubt that a lot of people will see it. But I was attempting to reach out and potentially pill some people and say, look, we have some disagreements. That's fine, but surely you can see, we're not as bad. We're not like this caricature that you make us out to be. And we have common enemies. We have common enemies and common ideologies that we think are worth fighting. And, it sucks that you're here with no real ideology. But if you want to actually be on here for a purpose, we have plenty of room over here advocating for universal liberal values.
Oh yeah, like if some of them want to get hawk pilled, for sure. I would look with skepticism if somebody like Not So Liz all of a sudden became a hawk tomorrow. That would seem kind of grifty, but
just trying to get simps. Well, we'll try to spot grifts where we see them, but it can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah. But I do want to go to Wyatt Claypool's response to the Froggo. He says, just because you fear the disappointing look of your father doesn't mean people fear your disappointment. Oh man.
Yeah, he said
Oh
he said
man.
that he was disappointed in me because I'm talking to you. He said like even for me, like talking to Kevin, that's like a no go.
Oh man, I missed that one. I'm gonna go. Oh,
Yeah, that
there it is.
is
There it
pretty
is.
funny.
There it is. At Nightmare Fuel. You know, and if you guys want a meme, there was another one of these Groiper type dudes, but on the left who was referring to Nightmare Fuel in a comment as Nightmare Fuel, and then in brackets he says his alias is Reese, and then end brackets, and
my real legal name is Reese, not my
but so
not my
now the
code
meme
name.
is I refer to Reese as Mr. Fuel because that's his legal last name.
Oh yeah, clearly my real name is Mr. Fuel.
We have at Nightmare Fuel. Hey, this guy is a clown. Even you can do better than this.
Even
I'm
me.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
This
Oh
grammar
man,
thing's happening on purpose, and I don't like it.
such a disappointing account.
Well, you know, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but Kevin's a cool dude. I like talking to him, and I'm sorry that you take an issue with that for some reason.
No,
why are you here? Like, why are you watching?
Like, why is he here, dude? Like, can't he read the bio? It literally says from the liberal hawk / neoconservative perspective. You don't seem to like Hawks. You can go and watch like your daddy Nick on D Live. You know, I'm sure he's talking about Jews bad or something right now, and his 6 Gorillion cookies or whatever. You know, you can go and watch that stuff for like the 8,000th time this year. What do we have here? Oh, he's got another comment here. Oh, I like this one. What a sick burn. Absolute. I mean, honestly, what a savage comeback. He says, this is Dan Wolf here. He says, at Wyatt Claypool, you are unfunny and unclever. Try again. Try harder. Okay. Like, you sound like a robot, dude.
Comedy is subjective.
He sounds like a robot. It's just like, you are unfunny. It's like, okay. What a joke.
Sorry to disappoint.
Sorry to disappoint. Oh man. He also writes here. Oh, he's going after everybody in the chat. Going after everybody in the chat. I mean, oh man, what a troubled little frog. He says, has your mom been telling you stories about me again at Dr. Zaus? Well, they are all true. And then he has his happy emoji. And then Zaus says, is this a truck driver guy?
It could be. I seem to remember that guy. Oh my god, this series of comments, this is the highlight of the night for me, because I mentioned the rose thing earlier, and Dr. Zaus said kiss from a rose, referencing the song, and Dirty Dancer said, how could such a beautiful song be associated with Mr. Freeze? Well, actually, sir, that song was in Batman Forever. That movie did not have Mr. Freeze.
Oh man. Like, I just realized, like, there are like another 40 comments ahead. We've got an active chat tonight, at least on YouTube.
We've been having an active chat for a while.
Yeah, we only have one viewer on Twitch though. We got 20 viewers on YouTube. Awesome. Only one viewer on Twitch. If you guys could, I'd even prefer it if you watch this on Twitch right now and go follow on Twitch, because I got to get up to 50 followers there to apply for affiliate status where I can get actually compensated to stream there. YouTube is insanely onerous and requires you to get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. Already past 4,000 watch hours, over like 4,500 now. But you know, past like 45 or 450 hours this week of watch time. But the 1,000 subscribers is kind of tough, because we're advocating for things here that in this era of cringe on the internet, which, you know, you can go and check out my old video about this in reference to something that Reese said a little while ago. The internet's basically been a total failure when it comes to serving as a conduit through which information can pass in the political process, for sure. But I do want to go to Atheist Rebbe here. He says, Dan, well, if you're just here to throw out high school here tier insults, tough guy. And like, see, this is the thing. Like, if there were a bunch of these guys and they were like spamming the chat with, you know, a bunch of cringe or whatever, they would get blocked. But if we only got one frog, you know, honestly, we do a lot of serious stuff here. It's fun to dunk on them, you know. So
the real question is, like, you have a person who I don't know, and I know nothing about other than, you know, they post cringy comments, you know, in a live stream chat. Why would I care if that person is disappointed in me? Like, am I like, I look, guys, you know, I'm not saying I'm like the cauldron of confidence here, but I don't need that much validation. Like, I'm not sitting here, oh my God, I'll never go on. This one guy doesn't like me. There are thousands of people who don't like me. My skin is fucking thick, bro. I'm thick. There's a meme, thick Reese. I have been thickened by my years and years of dealing with bullshit people like this.
What I love there is how you're literally a skeletal figure. You have not an ounce of skin on your body, and yet
my skin's invisible.
But your skin is thicker than these clowns.
There you go.
We've got Dan Wolf here. Oh, I love this. Here's another one of the name misunderstandings. This kind of reminds me of the Mr. Fuel meme. He says, anyone with @atheist_rebe in their name can be immediately disregarded just because of that username. And I'm like, but wait, that's his full name. Like, it's not any, like, if he said anyone with atheist in their name or whatever, he's like, anyone with your exact username in their name can be immediately, like, okay, that's kind of a weak delivery, dude. Like, well, he's probably the only one on YouTube with that name, dude.
This one guy has been invalidated.
It's like,
you're done, @atheist_rebe. It's over for you.
It's like anyone with the name Dan Wolf or whatever, like, could just immediately be disregarded just because of that username. It's like, yeah, that's his username. Again, like, I originally, when I glanced at it, I thought he was going to say anyone with atheists in their name, but then I looked, I'm like, oh no, he screwed up the delivery. He's like, anyone with your exact username in their name can be, yeah. Who else?
I'm looking at that comment now.
Like, no, dude. I'm just like I'm just imagining that there's like @atheist_rebe69 out there who's a different account somewhere on YouTube who's just like deeply burned now and has to go to like the emergency room over that burn, like, because he also has @atheist_rebe in his name. He also has a 69 on the end. Like, this applies to one person. Like, this entire insult here that's supposed to be like anyone, in other words, multiple people. It only applies to one person. See, like, this is the thing with these frogs and these clowns and these commies and stuff. So with the Mr. Fuel meme, they have, like, they screw up every sense of the delivery. Like, if they're trying to be funny, they screw it up. It's like Nightmare Fuel, his alias is Reese, or anyone with this very rare and exact name.
It's a very targeted insult, you know. It's only one person's really gonna feel it, and he doesn't seem to care. But
oh man,
I like this series of comments too. Reese has had much better haters than this guy. Oh, that's for damn sure. And this guy makes Ephraim seem deep. Ephraim, that's who I was trying to think of. Okay, let me defend. Okay, first off, Ephraim gets a point because he's seen the light in some regard, and he recently credited Kevin and myself, and I believe some other people, for opening his mind a bit and widening his horizons when it comes to foreign policy issues. But also, I'll give Ephraim the credit of Ephraim is memorable. Like, Ephraim is a character, like, I'll never forget Ephraim. Ephraim to me is like a standout guy. This guy is just like, I've seen a million, douchebags in the chat saying stupid shit. They don't stand out to me. It's not like, don't you dare compare this guy to Ephraim. Don't sully the name of Ephraim by comparing him to this fucker.
we have @atheist_rebe with a response, and mind you, I'm about over 10 minutes behind in the chat because there's been so many here. He says, are you dating a cat boy like Daddy Fuentes? Over to Dan. And then of course Wyatt says, You have the name of a 50-year-old male stripper. Don't try and critique others. To Dan Wolf, and then
Dan Wolf sounds like a furry name.
no, it sounds like a furry date. That's exactly it. And it wouldn't surprise me if he was dating a cat boy. But here's Dan Wolf here. He says, as if being a political pundit type isn't gross enough, these dorks are LARPing as political pundits from their parents' house. Just yuck, says the literal fasci dude who stands Nick Fuentes as he jerks it off to cartoon porn in mom's basement. Okay, incel.
I'm not a political pundit. I'm just a guy. I'm a guy on a stream. Like, is that really how I'm presenting myself? I'm not like, I make fun of that. I make fun of people who are like, I'm a newsman, and they're like, meanwhile they have like a Kremlin Kyle setup. Like, no, you're not. You're not the news. You're not a journalist. I make fun of that actively. I'll come out and say it right now. I am not a pundit. I am not an expert. I am a guy. I'm a loudmouth with an opinion. That's what I am. Take what you will from me. I have an opinion, but no, I am not a pundit. I'm just a guy talking on the fucking internet. That's all
I think the internet, honestly, I think the internet though is the future. I think it's where the people are. And so I think, that the future of political punditry is definitely online. But yeah, I think it by and large, I know he means it as like an insult or whatever, but it's like a political pundit has a job. The chances this guy has a job, like I'm talking before the coronavirus and stuff, like less than 20%. So,
it's just odd. Like, it basically, it's the kind of rhetoric that sounds like, oh, stop being political. Like, oh, look at you. You're talking about these issues that matter, as if anyone's listening to you, as if it's going to change anything. I don't expect to have much of an impact, but it doesn't mean I don't have an opinion on what's happening in the world, and hope to change the views of people around me who I think are worth salvaging. So that's just how it goes.
Oh man, the gun shark here says Reese's real name is Reese. Why do you think that the Jews have a fascination with peanut butter and chocolate? Dun dun dun.
It wasn't. Is that the new Jews have ears? Because I didn't.
Because
I wasn't aware Jews like peanut butter and chocolate that much.
No, but they like you because you're a no good neocon ghoul.
All right, I do the dirty work for them. I say everything that they put on the teleprompter.
Oh man, Wyatt Claypool says I cried after he sent that at me. No, it was such a lame comeback. Such a lame comeback. I mean, like these frogs, like I said before, they cling to glamorize, aestheticize, hype up, worship the oldest meme in existence of Jews bad. Like they think they're hip and edgy. It's like, I got news, dudes. Their great granddaddy was promoting those memes as he was doing some pogrom over in like, I don't know, like Eastern Europe or something back in the day. And it's like, oh yeah, Jews bad. Aren't we hip and edgy? It's like, and then you can go back another 2,000 years before that, and it's like, oh, we're edgy, we're hardcore. Jews bad. It's like, no, dude, the meme's old. The meme's old. It's overplayed. All it is just reeks of jealousy. It reeks of insultery. It reeks of cuckery. What else do we have here? We got the gun shark. He says, I'm pretty sure that at Dan Wolf likes to touch himself in public, but he can't do that because of the lockdown. Oh man, he's going through hard times. He's going through hard times, my Hawks. Hard time.
Now I just feel bad. Now I just feel bad.
We got Natalie Avalon here with a throwback to some earlier streams. Hawks eat frogs.
Very true. I think our friend left the building. He couldn't take all of the blowback.
He couldn't take the abuse. He
couldn't take all the mean comments.
The mean Hawks.
He was just disappointed. He had to go.
Yeah, we have Yeager de Pedo here. He says Dan Wolf puts ketchup on his mac and cheese.
Truly a degenerate.
Oh man, we got more people from Twitch. Good to see. Let's get up to 50 followers on Twitch. Let's go. We're at 8
no,
right.
for real, people. Even if you're not going to watch on Twitch, like you obviously will want to be part of the most active chat that's here on YouTube at the moment. But follow Kevin on Twitch. We're trying to raise the followers over there so he can become a partner and hopefully have a monetized streaming channel over there, which will make it easier for him to stream more in the future.
Oh yeah, and get back to doing those solo videos where I actually go in depth and have like a serious monologue on issues and stuff. Right now I'm so busy I can really only manage these streams right now, but I'm here every day. So, but if you want 4 to 5 videos a day plus a daily stream, gotta get up to $3,000 a month operating revenue for this to be financially viable. We're about 2.5% the way there right now. So for a small channel, not too bad. Let's keep it going.
No.
So
Arthur said, Reese, you're not even following him on Twitch. Well, let me make a Twitch account. Just give me some. I'll do it. Okay, I promise.
Oh man.
I'm just, hey, look, I'm the guy, do as I say, not as I do, basically.
Oh man, we got Anthony Roberto here. He says, Kevin, you're being too political. And
yeah, this is supposed to be a politics-free stream. What are you doing, man?
We got
Kevin. No, I'm disappointed now. I thought
you're disappointed.
I'm disappointed. I thought we were done with the politics. Yet you keep making everything political. What's up with that?
That's true.
Kevin. I just have to say this ego of yours it's really becoming an issue in our friendship, and I can't have it.
Oh man.
I'm done.
Oh man. You know what? I'm thinking about
Ashley.
I'm thinking about giving up my career as an esteemed political pundit and just dropping the politics out of these streams right now and just defending and praising Trump ad nauseum 24/7.
Well, that's not political.
And just doing away with the politics.
Just stop being political and talk. Give some compliments to our dear leader, and it will be okay.
We've got Arthur Izar in the chat. He says, "Hello, Arthur. Thanks for being here." He says, "What's wrong with Mom's basement? She has the best hot pockets." Oh man, dude, that's a timeless meme. That's a timeless meme right there. I mean, I'm a fan of South Park. Those guys with the World of Warcraft episode, of course, that's a throwback. You'll remember when the boys got World of Warcraft back in like 2007 or something, and they were going there and killing noobs, and they grinded WoW for like 24 hours a day nonstop, and Cartman's just like, "Man, more hot pockets." That's immediately what I imagine. And it's largely been confirmed to me that all of the gripers look like in real life because I've seen them on the streams where they go in and ask like Dan Crenshaw or Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk stuff, and you're like, dude, like you look like you haven't left Mom's basement in like 6 months. Like,
sex is only between a man and a woman, and you're looking at this person, and you're like, you have never had sex.
Never, not once.
Look, this is like just a hard and fast rule. Virgins should not talk about any issues pertaining to sex ever. If you want to be taken seriously by the general public, just keep your mouth shut until you're actually an adult.
Oh man, we got Wyatt here. He says Nick fans all come off like they lick rocks because being part of a cult makes you come off like a fool to the false belief that you possess hidden knowledge. Like, see, that's the thing is like they think that like their memes and stuff is like super esoteric and like they're a part of something that like nobody really knows about, and like they're the vanguard, they're on the forefront, and it's like everybody's like, dude, we all know what 3 parentheses around a name means. Like that's not an edgy meme. Like,
you really cracked the code with that one. I wonder if some of them are like, oh, these suckers, they don't even know what we're talking about. Our code is impenetrable.
No, I'm almost certain that some of them actually do think like that because there was leaked DMs between Caitlin Bennett, her, I guess, fiance, and others that are a part of the Liberty Hangout group. and they were in a private Discord chat where it was just only those guys that think like themselves. It was just like their Groiper people, and it was private, and nobody else was like supposed to see it. It wasn't like a live chat thing for an audience. It was just a private thing that got leaked, and they were using 3 parentheses around Jews' names, and you're like, what? Like they like they do that. It's like, wait, but everybody in there is already a Nazi or sympathetic to Nazis. They already know that. Like, I'm just imagining right now, like spelling out the whole thing. It's like they do it with themselves. Like they really think it's like it's a code. It's a code.
There's no point in speaking in code to people who would theoretically know what you're talking about.
Know the code too, but they'll do it in public too. They'll be like, well, he works with, and then in triple parentheses, the bankers, or triple parentheses, the establishment, or triple parentheses, the State Department. And you're like, yeah, but we all know what this means. And I'll give you to the audience, I'll give you a sense of just how prevalent, and you guys probably already know this, but just how prevalent that meme is and how common knowledge it is, that Jewish people you started using it in their handles, in their bios and stuff, as a way to like basically just kind of point out how ridiculous the thing is. It's like that's how common it is. Like everybody knows what it means. Like you're not being clever if you think you're gonna like name Jews or whatever on a public platform using the triple parentheses, and that we won't know what's going on. Like we know what's going on. So
I like this comment. Caitlin Bennett has a fiance. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dude. Sorry to disappoint you.
I mean, I guess she needed somebody to change her diapers. So
I've seen people who, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He's a liberal guy on Twitter. But he had this really funny ongoing joke, which was his crush on Caitlin Bennett. And basically it was just him saying like, look, I know she's terrible, but come on, damn. Like she looks good.
Oh,
I just thought that was funny. I disagree with him, obviously.
100%. She
200%.
Yeah, no, she. I mean, like we gotta keep it real here. She's ugly inside and out. So
I like how you didn't even try to sugarcoat it.
No, dude, I keep it 100 with the Hawks, my dude. Keep it 100 with the Hawks.
I always bring this up, but I feel like we're in that scene in The Social Network where they're going through and rating the girls. Oh yeah, she's fuckable. No, yes, no, yes.
Oh man.
I also wanted to give a shout out to Arthur if he's still in the chat, because
he is still in the chat. He's got another comment.
Awesome guys. Currently working on some artwork for me for a side project. Very cool guy, and you had him on for a conversation. Yes. So if people want to,
for Hawk Talk with Hawk Arthur, for sure.
If you want to hear more from Arthur, he has a whole stream with just him and Kevin. So awesome guy, and thank you to Arthur for the work he's doing now and all the work he's done for me in the past.
Yeah, and I'll say the same too. Thanks to Arthur, because he's done the intro and mid-run graphics for my channel back when I made solo videos where it would me talking by myself on subjects. And he's a memer too. We go way back with the meme page and everything. And one day I was just like, do you watch Nightmare Fuel? And he's like, yeah. We're part of a hot community where it's like it's kind of tight knit in that sense, and it was kind of interesting because we both had watched Nightmare Fuel, but we didn't. But we met through the meme page, but there's that, and so he's made content for both of us, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I did about an hour-long interview with him, and check him out, which was interesting because he's one of the Hawks who's a lot more, I guess, socially progressive and whatnot. And whereas a lot of the Hawks also support Joe Biden, Arthur was supporting Bernie Sanders. So we have a diversity of opinions and whatnot. But absolutely. At the end of the day, we all believe in like human rights and stuff. And the reasons why we're supporting Bernie Sanders are quite different from the reasons why a lot of the cringe folks on Twitter are supporting him. Like, you know.
Yeah, no, and I welcome political diversity. I know that it might seem like I don't, but it's something that I, within, reason, of course, but it's something that I've always found interesting. And this is something that I never got used to as a public figure with a channel. I never got used to the idea that there were just people out there watching me. To me, it really was, except for a few people who I knew, mostly interacting with on Twitter, it was just a bunch of numbers to me. It was hard to imagine, like, oh, this actually represents thousands of individuals out there. And the idea that people who would just meet in a completely unrelated area and start talking and be like, oh yeah, I've watched this guy, like I've seen his stuff. That's insane to me. Like I never thought that I would have. I didn't expect to get any followers, really.
No, a lot of people from the meme page that I made, Liberal Hawk memes for moral universalist teens, a lot of them that I've asked them, like, yo, you should check out this guy Nightmare Fuel. And they're like, oh, you watch Nightmare Fuel too? It's like, now a lot of people know I'm associated with you now. This is like months ago, but it's like, a lot of people in that community, and some of them are like more far right, or not far right, but like more right wing. Some of them are more left wing. Some of them are centrist. They all watch Reese, so
that is how it is. I mean, we had a guy in the last stream I was on who was in the chat, who I guess he was more to the right, and he said basically, I have these disagreements with Reese, but I've followed him for years. I just find him to be an interesting person, and like you get a lot of followers like that, and I think that that's cool too. I don't expect people to agree with me all the time, but I think that if we agree on some basic ideas, we'll generally get by okay, and we can maybe debate other things. I've pretty much narrowed what I talk about now, and I'm talking about a lot of current events. I'm not, I might go back and talk about things that are a bit more niche at some point, because I have done that before. I have covered just weird things out of the blue that just randomly interested me. But you never know. At the moment, this is important to me. Oh wait, shit. Okay, we're still good. See, I get so fearful. I'm like, wait a minute, what am I still on? Okay. The Ruskies, they're always got their finger hovering over the red button. Like, should we can him? I don't know. But I was going to say, I am planning at the moment to. I don't have a whole lot of like Nightmare Fuel content planned. We'll see what happens there. But I am planning at some point to come back, possibly on a secondary channel. That's basically going to be my bullshit channel. It's going to be just like that is legitimately the politics free zone. Like, that way, people can just come and hang out. I basically wanted to make YouTube fun for me again, because it started to become not fun in a lot of ways.
You should stream Twitch. The last time I saw you in a live stream on your channel, you were just playing some games and stuff, and you could stream Twitch with me, So
no, that'd be awesome. I might as well update, because I rail against YouTube so much. But
we could play Fortnite and stuff. We could play Pokemon Go.
I like it.
We've talked about that before, that we should actually just do a Pokemon video, because like you're a fan of Pokemon too, right? So
I'm a huge fan. My idea was so basically on my idea for this secondary channel was, it was going to be an excuse for me to connect with like a lot of old passions, and just like I consume a lot of other media, so I was like, well, this would be a way for me to just do that anyway, but provide some content, and just it's basically just me doing what I do anyway. And an idea I had was, I wanted to play some of the Pokemon games for sure, because like that is my true stake in the Pokemon fandom, and I haven't played a whole lot of them, so I this was my chance to be like, okay, well, here's a lot of these games I never really gave a chance, and here's an excuse to play them, and if I'm going to be playing them, why not just have it be a video?
Oh man, you know one game that I've really enjoyed, and probably altogether, if I add up the hours spent, about 1,200 hours on across the different variations of it, is Sid Meier's Civilization. You ever play that?
I've seen it for sure. I have not played it, but I know what it is.
Those games can run a long time. Like, I mean,
Oh my god! I see, I see Anthony Avis Buson in the chat. I can never pronounce your name. I'm so sorry, my dude. But he says, "Oi, at Reese, Saddam Rafiq is waiting." Okay, this is the funniest. This is the funniest story ever. So back in the day, this is a long. I've known Anthony for a long time. Back in the day, we used to troll. There was I'm not even going to reference the channel, but there was an atheist channel, really small, irrelevant atheist channel that was like a really big Islam apologist, and I had a feud with him for a while, and so we trolled him one day, and I was watching the stream. I had people in the chat, and we were just shit talking this panel, but we sent a couple of people in, and one of them was Anthony, and Anthony went in using a fake Arab accent, and he called himself Saddam Rafiq, and he was basically posing as like this refugee or something, and like they just bought it hook, line, and sinker. It was a brilliant impression. I thought it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, honestly, on YouTube.
oh man,
That was, man, those were the days, those were the days before, like, before people start regarding you as a public figure, and you have to face consequences, and like everything you say is monitored, and like there's endless threads about what a piece of shit you are. Like that's how YouTube used to be. It used to be so fun and carefree, and we weren't doing it seriously. We were fucking around. At least I was. And that's what surprised me. When I really am grateful that people elevated my voice, and thought for some reason I deserved more support than other channels. That unfortunately, I've seen a lot of talented, very capable, very intelligent people who just didn't. They fizzled out. They didn't make it anywhere, and it looks like I'm fizzling out too. So hey, maybe we're all in the same boat.
What do you mean fizzling out? You're frequently appearing on what's like going to be one of the biggest channels of the 2030s on YouTube. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Never mind. I retract the statement. But
I mean, it'll take a few years to get there, but
I no, for sure. You're making great progress, honestly, now with the amount of support you have, and including financial support at this.
Oh yeah. And
the
thing is, I just want to say, I know what you're talking about before, about like how it does in some sense become numbers when you hit around the 10,000 mark. I always try to sure, it's 289 subscribers I think we're up to right now. Those are all real people, right? So it's like 6 patrons, real people. Every dollar matters. I mean, it's again, I'm not like the Young Turks. I'm not some organization who's like, we need this money from you so that we can rent a $50,000 a month studio in Los Angeles. It's like, I want the bare minimum so that I can be financially viable to do this as a full-time job. I'm not looking for $50K a month for rent so that I can and so that I could have Hassan Piker living in my basement talking about how landlords need to get executed. Just female Uncle Jank pays all the bills so that he can play Fortnite and talk about how Dan Crenshaw deserved to get his eye blown out. What a piece of shit, So it's like
landlord should die. Uncle Jank just turns sheet white.
Yeah, it's here's the thing. But that being said, we like to have fun here and everything, but if you are into some less serious kind of stuff, more memey kind of stuff, kind of shit posty kind of stuff at times, go check out my meme page, Liberal Hawk Memes, for moral universalist teens. We got a lot of fans of the channel there. We got a lot of fans of Reese there. We got a lot of people who would have never heard about this stuff. We got a lot of people there who obviously some of them are haters and traitors and they hate follow. But you know, we got a lot of people there who genuinely like living in a democracy, living in a country where they don't have to worry about getting sent to a gulag or starving because the economy is socialist or whatever. And they think that other people around them should have the rights to that. And they like to meme. So if you like memes, go check it out. So
I love it. I did want to say, because I know that there was a recent call out for people to, basically, like mass subscribe to me to incentivize me to make another video. And I recently did check the Nightmare Fuel channel, and I was like, I had like hundreds of additional subscribers that weren't there before. And I was like, holy shit. They could all be socks, but I would imagine there's some real I mean, that would be a lot of socks. Like
Hawk socks.
That
Let's
would be
make Hawk
some
sock army.
real dedication. So hey, I appreciate it. That puts me around like 9,700, a little bit over that right now. Man. So hey, hey, look, if I reach 10K, I have to make a video. Like there's no excuse. So,
yeah.
Look, if you really want me to make a video, that will be it.
So the race is on. Like I've got 9,700 to go, and you're at 9,700. So we'll see who makes it to 10K first.
Oh yeah, this isn't unfair at all.
Like, because I don't know, man. I mean, people were joking that I'm gonna hit 10K first, but oh man,
they were. I wouldn't. If I have no content and you have content every day, it is a possibility, I suppose.
It's a possibility, because if you just stay at the number that you're at each day, that means that obviously people are unsubscribing. You're still gaining followers to just be at the same number, right? So it's like, even just to stay at the same number, you still have to accrue followers and stuff. So it does take work, but I do want to go to a couple of the comments in the chat. Arthur Izar writes, signing up for Twitch is making me feel like a boomer. And then we got Wyatt Claypool here. He says, oh, this is funny. He says, I bet half the TYT board meetings spend 10 minutes discussing where all the money went in their productions. And I can say here definitively that's not the case, because how could there be board meetings? They fired all their staff because they claimed that they ran out of money after getting $20 million. Like, you can't have a board meeting if there's nobody that works there. but no, in all seriousness, oh, for sure. I mean, I know that Jank and Anna probably know where the money went, but like some of the underlings and stuff, the people who do the graphics for them and everything, are probably thinking to themselves, like, really, we're going to beg for money again from people so that Jank can, like, I don't know what they do with the money. All I know is that $20 million, that's a hell of a lot of money. So,
I just had a thought. I would bet that because you've been advertising the channels of everyone who comes on here, that a lot of those new subscribers came from you, potentially.
Not 300. I mean, I don't even have 300. It's probably like
some of them, and maybe they had socks. But
Hawk socks.
People do find, people will find old videos of mine. Like it's kind of, amazing. And sometimes you'll get like a hater who like goes through a bunch of your videos. like you see just this trail of comments on completely unrelated videos, and it's like,
no, that happens to me too. I woke up the other day to a comment, or about a week ago, on a comment from a video I made. Like, it was one of the first videos I ever made on the channel. I think it was one of the ones that was I was going after Tulsi Gabbard in her interview with Stephen Colbert from like April of 2019. And I had like my mic the wrong way in the video and stuff. I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of audio production and stuff. And they were like, dude, your audio sucks. This channel is a joke and all this stuff. And it's like, how did you even find this video? They didn't comment on anything else. They just found a video about an event that was relevant in April of 2019, like the other day. And they were a fan of Tulsi Gabbard. So, thank you, Tulsi.
Man, your audio sucks. Like, everybody's audio sucks at first. That's kind of part of the charm. That's why it's kind of special to be a YouTuber. in that way. We don't have TYT studios. Not most of us. Most of us we're just sitting at a table with a USB mic, and my pop filter is literally a sock over my fucking mic because I'd received a pop filter, but the table that I record at, it wouldn't clip on it properly. So I was like, fuck it. My audio was sounding so poppy. I was like, I need something. And I looked up, like, are there any like easy alternatives? And somebody said, well, how about you just use a sock?
A sock.
So guess what? I use a fucking sock on the microphone.
Oh man, Reese. We still have an active chat. We got 24 people with us now. We're up to 5 viewers on Twitch and 19 on YouTube. That's based.
Nice. Hey, make sure that Twitch chat's doing good. I saw somebody say they were lonely in there. I don't want anyone lonely.
Yeah, don't get lonely in Twitch. We want boomers in Twitch. We want zoomers in Twitch.
Look, if you're a real professional, you can be posting in both chats.
Yeah, or you could do like I think Jaeger was doing with 3 phones. Like, you're not really watching this channel unless you got it on 3 monitors, So we got, what else is there here? We got, well, I'm a bit delayed on catching up on the chat. There's been such an active chat, but I'm still going through these. And I noticed that our friend the Froggo came back and he says, I'm going to highlight his comment here. He says, I haven't unmuted this fail stream once, but I bet they are still talking about me. Poor unfortunate goofballs will probably read this also. I feel dirty just being here, but at least I'm not listening. Sure, you're not listening, buddy.
I mean, if you feel dirty, why are you here? You could leave. There's like an X button. And no, we weren't we talked about you very briefly, really.
We moved on for about the only reason why we talked about you after you, I guess, muted it is because I was about 13 minutes delayed on the chat because we got so many people here commenting a lot, mostly dunking on you, and we wanted to get to some of them because there was some really lit responses to your cringe, bro. So
don't go to the Twitch chat. They are talking about things you can do with socks other than using it for a mic.
No, I like this comment.
Microphones are pretty phallic in nature.
Oh man, I like this comment from Wyatt. He says Kevin has to go kick June again, referring to Shoe on Head, the brainlet, to get some more traction. And I think it's true. My Twitter's kind of stagnated over the last week. I lose a follower, I gain a follower. YouTube, well, the YouTube channel is gaining like a follower, or I guess it's a subscriber about every 15 hours or so right now, which is pretty good. But what else is there here? We got.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's only bound to increase exponentially once you have a more established base. I'd say like after you hit 1K,
yeah,
then people will be like, "This is a serious channel." Like,
that for
number.
Sure.
That'll mean a lot to people.
I feel like, I get the sense that people, especially the people that are on the fence or the haters and traders, they will not subscribe to me right now because they feel like I'm so small. And if they don't give me the subscription, then I'll just go away and, not quit my day job, so to speak, or whatever is the meme. But if I have 1K and when you subscribe at that point, you don't even notice an increase in that number because it still just says 1K. Then they'll subscribe because they want to hate watch me. So it's like, it's that sort of thing, right? There's a lot of haters out here.
It does show you the exact number.
Oh, it does.
Like I know the exact number of subscribers I have.
Gotcha.
But see, it depends on the tab you're looking at. What's weird is it usually, like if you click on the, I believe it's the icon at the top right, it will round up. So, for me, it's said 10K for a long time because if you have over 9,500, it counts you as 10K. It's very strange. I don't know. Look, it makes me feel good. Don't get me wrong, YouTube, but I don't have 10K. It's a lie.
Oh man. I want to go to Wyatt again. He says half the time TYT audio sucks because it can't handle jank going full blown water buffalo and screaming about Medicare.
Yeah, no, I mean he blows out their audio, I'm sure, daily. Like they can't. They don't
That's
have the
where the 20
decibel
million
range.
went, dude. That's where the 20 million went on replacing mics.
That's like the most awesome scandal ever. Then
No,
look, we
dude,
had to replace all these mics. Jank couldn't stop screaming.
Junk Jank. No, let's get hashtag Junk Jank trending. I mean, the guy's a total clown. What do we have here? He says, Jaeger de Pedo says, oh, yeah, that's the heads up about it. Wyatt's got a response to Dan. He says, speak up. Dan Wolf spoke up because he wasn't getting enough big boy attention. Oh, man.
His 15 minutes have passed, you know.
They've passed, yeah. And
Like,
we are caught up on the chat now. And
look at us go.
we got Mitzi in the chat here. Hashtag Zaus gang.
This house gang. The memes around here are eternal.
No, dude, what this channel might lack in current subscriptions, we make up for in memes for days, memes for leagues, you know.
You know, it's a more personal experience in that way. You know, and that's what people should say.
I love how Stone Toss though accused this of being AstroTurf. That like it was like I've had a number of the Tulsi people too say that like that the set it's made to look like something that like a poor person would have or whatever, or somebody who's like middle class or whatever. So as the Pentagon can spew their establishment propaganda without having like some dude on CNN.
Oh yeah, your room's like a movie set, you know, like really.
Basically, like I'm actually at the Pentagon, and you know it's like a pristine marble background and everything. But we just put some drywall up and put a bookshelf there and whatnot, and I guess to fool people. Like again, everything's a conspiracy with these guys, right? Everything's a conspiracy. Like imagine living in a world where everything that's reported must be a lie, must be a cover up. Yet when it comes to communist China or when it comes to Assad gassing people or whatever, no, that's fake. That's fake news. Like you know, they wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't harm their people. They wouldn't gas their own people. But the U.S., the Pentagon, they would totally like do that. They would totally get like some dude who like just got out of university to make a YouTube channel and make it look like he's in an apartment somewhere, but actually have it in the Pentagon so that he can tank Tulsi Gabbard's campaign by looking youthful. Because of course, only the boomers would ever agree with him. And it's like, I guarantee you, most of the people in the chat right now, they're like doing the hot gang memes and stuff are like under the age of 35. So this whole Ziocon thing with the boomers, it's a bunk and junk meme. So
no, this is a relatively, I mean, this is a young group. Yeah, the average age for sure. I mean, like out of the people who come on the panel, like, you know, we don't have anyone over 30 really.
Yeah, I think it's just Hawk J.
And ironically, he probably looks the youngest out of
No, he looks younger than me for sure. I think, you know,
he looks good. He takes care of himself
for sure. Absolutely. You know, he's a hawk. He doesn't like ruffle around in the dirt with the pigeons. You know, he's a pristine hawk.
He ruffles around with other birds. Wink, wink.
Oh man. We got here Jaeger de Pedo. Quote, the U.S. is the wrecking machine that is destroying everything. The world is hoping that China will somehow come to the rescue, end quote. Noam Chomsky. This is God on Kremlin Kyle. This is the God on Kremlin Kyle. What else do we have here? Oh, Natalie says that she's 31. So she's probably in the older side of the distribution. I know a lot of people here are pretty zoomy or millennial. So that's cool. I mean, because like I'm not an anti-boomer type person, which I guess 31 is still millennial, I think. But what else do we have here?
Yeah, I believe it is.
But Mike Claypool says channels like this get quality viewers and not drones who just parrot talking points the way Kyle's audience operates. Yeah, see, like that's the thing is like I was talking about this before, how like Kyle Klinsky, he has a budget of about $14,000 American dollars per month on top of the ads and on top of the affiliate revenue that he gets. And so he has the money to do it as a full-time job and not have to work anywhere else. But you wouldn't know it because he never puts any time into research or anything. He just does a couple of hours of videos a day. I mean, there's a chance I spend more time on my channel each day than he does. And I work like 9 to 10 hours a day most days. So, like at a day job. So.
I know that anytime I've responded to him, especially the later videos, hours upon hours of research went into those. Like definitely more than what he did. But the thing is, he has no incentive to do research. Like that's the real elephant in the room. Like what's the point? Like if you have this cushy gig where you can basically say the same 5 things different ways, and you can release a handful of videos every day parroting those same talking points to people who wouldn't even think to question your wisdom. What is the point of researching anything? You're just operating in this game of confirmation bias. And I mean, research, oh God, that sounds tiring. Like, look, man, I need to count my money. Like, I don't have time to be doing research. The kind of research that I've done for Kyle videos broke me. Like, it was exhausting. It was the amount of shit I had to read and go through and really try to understand so many different moving parts. Like, it felt like a fucking school project. But I wasn't doing it for school. I was just doing it on my own as a hobby. Like, that's how I'm a masochist.
Well, I mean, in a way, I mean, it is kind of the duty of all of us as citizens and believers in the West here to call out the fifth column rate and to uphold our civilization, right? And so, there's sure that you kind of have to be a masochist to actually take the call and actually go through with it and debunk his bunk and chunk narrative. But I mean, somebody has to do it, and so we owe you a lot of thanks for that, Reese. Because I mean, he is able to just look up some Twitter account from, I guess it was Venezuelan state, and their little narrative about the Panama Canal, and then he just puts it into a video as concrete fact to his 800,000 subscribers. In other words, he has an audience that's about 2,500 times as big as mine, like literally, and he can just tell them lies. And
he had
they
another
eat it up.
video that I think I began structuring some kind of response, but I never got around to it. But he was talking about Venezuela in that video too, and he basically on the issue of Juan Guaido and the National Assembly, he said that basically Juan Guaido was only seen as the leader of Venezuela, the rightful interim president, because we said he was. Like, we were just kind of putting a puppet in place. And it's like, well, this guy clearly doesn't know what he's talking about at all. Like, if you even did like a small amount of research, you would understand that given the current state of Venezuela, the current leadership is not legitimate. It's not possible. Democracy has failed in Venezuela, which would automatically put in place the National Assembly leader as the interim president until you could have a proper election. That's what their constitution says.
Yeah.
So, but Kyle's never fucking read that constitution because he's a hack.
For sure. It's just like what you said, he has no incentive to do it. You're right, but it also goes to something else, which is that, and it's kind of interesting here. It also means that he really has no interest to do the research, because you would think, well, he might not have the financial incentive anymore, but he got into the business because he was interested in politics and foreign affairs and all this sort of stuff. So he would do it as like a hobby or something. And no interest, nothing. He'd rather parrot buzzwords and stuff, because of course, if he did the research, he wouldn't have made that video. That's the thing. That video would not exist if he did do the research. So,
yeah, no, for real.
Unless he was just blatantly gonna absolutely lie. But I believe even if he knew, he would make a different video with something that he could more control the narrative over or whatever. But I do want to go to Dan Wolf here.
They don't do research because you can't, if you do proper research, you can't be an isolationist.
And that's kind of
like reality is like a cold fish slapping you in the face. It doesn't work. If you actually knew what the fuck was happening in our world, if you were aware of the state of this world and how truly fucked up it is and how many things demand our attention, you could not possibly be an isolationist. And so they have to live in ignorance. And apparently their audience feels satisfied to do that as well.
Yeah, no, and it's disgusting. And the thing is, you're right. It brings up the cognitive dissonance, because if Kyle did do research and then wound up, bringing on that cognitive dissonance where he would find out what was actually going on, it would mean that maybe if he didn't become a hawk, he would become less anti-interventionist than he is now. All of a sudden, that gravy train would stop. And I think, well, you could say, well, he's been doing this for 10 years. Sure, he wasn't always making $14,000 a month, but he was making $8,000 a month, $6,000 a month. He's probably got like $1 million by this point, or $500,000 by this point. The money might not matter anymore. No, I bet, just like Nick Fuentes and all these other guys, and I don't know, this is just speculating, I bet he spent most of the money on like Gucci swag and stuff like Hassan Piker would do. Like I doubt. I think that he probably just assumes that this is like a permanent grift at this point, and he doesn't have to worry about saving any of the money because they'll always have the suckers there. But it also means that he can never change his views, because if he ever did, all of a sudden those guys he radicalized would call him a sellout and a neocon and stuff, and then the Patreon would dry up. So and sure, maybe he'd still have like $5,000 a month or something, which is a lot of money, especially to do a job like that. But my guess is he's probably got used to living on $14,000 a month or $12,000 a month. So, because people that make $100,000 a year plus, some of them still live paycheck to paycheck. They just have bigger expenses. So,
Oh yeah, no, for sure. You can very much live paycheck to paycheck. He's in New York, so I'm sure that the living costs are not, they're not like what they are for me, for example. New York. I believe he's in New York City, if I'm not. he's in New York State for sure. I don't know what city he's in. He could be in
Manhattan. If you're in Manhattan, the average rents around Manhattan are north of $4,000 a month, which, like, even if you're somebody who makes $100,000 a year in New York, after taxes and food and everything else, you're not going to have that much money left over. But Kyle also just doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that would be frugal or proactive with the money. He's not proactive on foreign policy. Like,
doesn't seem like much of a planner, that's for sure.
Well, I do want to go to Dan Wolf here. Because he's got us on mute and he's not paying attention to us and he's not thinking about the stream, but he just can't help himself from keeping hopping back in here and commenting. So and he's giving us the viewership. We're up to 7 viewers on Twitch, 22 viewers on YouTube. That's dope. Right at the 30 mark, basically. He says, wow, can you imagine anything more evil and despicable than being pro-war? No. LARPing as a pro-war political pundit. Just fucking lower than snail slime evil. Well, actually, that's creative. That I'll give him that. That's actually a creative string of insults. Normally, they just go with like the word bad, like Zyocon or whatever. That's kind of it's kind of creative.
It's hyperbolic as all hell, but it's creative.
He says, "My heart goes out to your parents," and it's like, well, I guess his heart doesn't have to go very far, because my guess is that like mom's upstairs and this guy's like watching like reruns of like Hitler propaganda or whatever, what else is there here?
Lower than snail slime.
Dun, dun, dun. No, lower than snail slime evil. In fact, that's creative. I haven't seen that one before, so I'm gonna give him that. A lot of them just go with the ears thing. He hasn't mentioned the ears. Maybe he's not one of Nick's. Maybe he's one of Kyle's. You don't know. Like
they sound the same.
They sound the same.
It doesn't
They sound
matter.
the same. Oh man, we got different emojis. We got emojis in the Twitch stream right now. We got Star Manipulator with like, it's kind of hard to tell what the emojis are. It's like a woman. I can't really tell where their hand gesture is, but what else do we have? Like
Something I really like about StreamYard is, at least in this version I'm seeing of the chat here, I can see all the comments from Twitch and YouTube. They just put them all in the same chat.
Yeah, you can see it in the studio, right? So you can see the Twitch stuff too. Are you able to see how many viewers we have as well, Reese?
No, I'm not seeing that. It might be somewhere else. But I am seeing all the comments.
Gotcha, because the viewership for me appears right up by where the time mark is in the top left corner of where our channel appears. So like if you're watching it on YouTube, you won't see it, but on my studio, I can see in the top left, it'll say live, and like we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, and then they'll have the eye icon with 26. When I hover my cursor over it, it tells me my account on Twitch has 6 viewers live, and the YouTube one has 20 viewers live. So that's how the premium version of this breaks down. And then I can also here control the Chiron. We're going to shill Reese again here. So subscribe to Nightmare Fuel. Let's get him up to 10K. So
yep, get me to 10K. I'll make a video. That's the deal.
There you go. Let's do it.
The gauntlet has been laid down, people.
It's been laid down.
If you miss me, you know what to do.
Here's Jaeger de Pedo. He says, Kyle doesn't do research. He reads Salon, The Hill, cringe, The Intercept, cringe, and makes videos. No, that's accurate. That's entirely like his research process. Wyatt says, Kyle knows what a crowd of uneducated people think sounds about correct, and he just calibrates himself to that. You see, that's the thing. Like Kyle, I know Kyle has a degree in political science. I know that Kyle is generally, he's not an idiot. He's just a grifter, and he's got a grift going, and I guess he's been successful at it. But Dan Wolf, the guy who just doesn't have time for us. He just doesn't have time for us. He's here again in the chat.
Oh,
He says, I mean, I have heard better conversations between, so he is listening, I guess, between two turds up my butthole. Probably time to go back to me, Dan Wolf. Probably your dad, the best part of this stream. And like, I'm not even sure exactly who he's going after here. We got a lot of interaction.
I'm guessing us, but he said before that he wasn't listening.
He wasn't listening, so
I mean, it's obviously not true.
It's obviously not true. See, that's the thing. This guy's such a man child. Like, my guess is he's probably around our age. He's probably not like actually like 14 or whatever. But he's the typical neat dude or whatever. But
I mean, like just that. That's just one of the most immature comments I've ever seen in my life. Really, this is the opposition, guys.
Oh man,
no, quit. Gods of Twitter and YouTube, please stop trolling us. Where's the real competition? Come on.
Oh man, we got Star Manipulator here who writes, Nightmare Fuel, make a Twitch and stream about Pokemon content.
Hell yes.
And then that looks like it's kind of hard to tell what the emoji is actually from this studio angle, but
I don't recognize a lot of the Twitch ones. I'll have to figure out what they mean.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a boar or something, but then we've got Wyatt Claypool here. He says, as someone who is taking something like political science, I know that it's not something that makes you an expert on anything. And, I did a political science degree, and I couldn't agree more with that. You can be a total brainlet and get like a master's in political science. That's all that you need to do is just basically say war bad, USA bad, or whatever. But let's see. Jaeger says, I can't see Dan Wolf, so I must be blocked. I'm guessing he does put ketchup on his mac and cheese.
Burn.
Absolute burn. Oh man. Oh man. Wyatt remarks here. Yeah, Dan Wolf blocked me too. Clearly my insults were just not funny enough for him. I guess he's just disappointed. He's disappointed in people here actually watching things that they agree with and that they believe in, or that they at least in some way agree on some issues with, because he wasn't having a good time. He was not a happy camper. He wasn't a happy camper, and he's still here. I'm almost certain he's still lurking here. I think he's still almost certainly not a happy camper. But I mean, we've already welcomed him. Like, dude, you can go and like watch the Daily Groiper or like Red Ice TV or whatever the hell it is you're into. Kremlin Kyle's shoe on hat. Like, it's the internet. You can go and do whatever you want, but instead you choose to be here. You choose to be, upset and triggered, and and it looks like we ruffled your grapey jimmies tonight. So
Yeah, I think you missed a lot of really really funny comments. I'm pretty sure. I like so yeah, it's under his the Groiper's last one. There was one from Dirty Dancer that's really funny.
Is it the Medicare for All one?
No.
Oh, it must be further back.
It's about the chiropractor.
This is, I'm just going to go through. So the last comment from the Groiper was the one about probably your dad. Was that the comment?
Yes.
Okay, and then the comment that I'm looking for is from Dirty Dancer following that.
Reese should show his face. Man, you Twitch people are so damn horny. Come on.
Oh, here it is. Here's the comment. Dirty Dancer. Cal's superhero origin is his father was murdered by a chiropractor. Oh man.
A joke. That's a real low blow joke, but it's pretty funny.
we have Natalie Avalon who writes, Kyle lives in a prime target city, yet supports nuclear proliferation with Iran and other evil regimes. Unadulterated imbecility. Oh yeah, like I've said, like that's one thing that these people stew. They just stew and reside in cuckery. Like that's why we call them isocucks. They like it when our enemies point nuclear weapons at us. It makes them feel good,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like that would be something that I would support if because obviously I don't live in a major city. But if I was like some hillbilly and I hated all them liberal elites in the cities, I would support nuclear proliferation to wipe out the liberals and finally liberate America.
Finally liberate Minnesota and liberate Michigan and liberate Illinois or whatever the states were. Liberate Virginia.
I had this guy on Twitter recently. He was like an anarchist. He was bitching at me about because it was actually in relation to you, because you were saying that like you were pointing out how many more nuclear warheads we have than China and how it was a good thing.
Yeah.
And this upset a lot of people who are blatant China apologists. And
a bunch of isococks.
and I put a comment on there like, yeah, I think, obviously I think it's a good thing we have more weapons of mass destruction than they do, because they are not to be trifled with. They are an enemy nation. And this anarchist comes at me and is like, you support nuclear proliferation. not even understanding what that means. It doesn't count for countries. It doesn't count for China or America, because we were part of that original nuclear weapon treaty.
Yeah.
As nations who could have these weapons. Iran is not on that list, my friend. North Korea is not on that list either. Honestly, China should be stricken from that list as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they weren't even on the list back in 1945 when this was all recognized, and I talked about the UN as a compromise between good and evil. That was between the Soviets and America, with the Soviets being the evil party that was given the P5 there. But the P5 at the time, at the inception of the United Nations up until 1972, consisted of 4 Western powers that had the veto power, and one communist power that had the veto power, which of course was the USSR. But the four other P5 were the French Republic, United Kingdom, United States of America, and the Republic of China, which was exiled basically to the island of Taiwan, which was Formosa back then. It was the case that Taiwan had the veto and was treated in the same way that we would treat like Russia or France, like these countries that have large nuclear arsenals. They were treated as the powerful body because they were seen as the legitimate government of a billion people, basically, or at the time 600 million people. That changed after Nixon recognized China and moved closer, communist China, Red China, and moved closer to Beijing. And I understand why he moved closer to Beijing. I understand why he reached out to them.
Because he wanted an advantage over the
Soviets. But they never should have. See, even then, I would have done what Nixon did, reaching out to Mao against the Soviets, but I wouldn't have shifted the P5 over to Beijing. That's a bridge too far for me personally. But I do, before we get back to this, I do just want to highlight a comment from the Twitch stream here. We have Talking Fridge who writes, finally a neocon on Twitch. He continues and says the Twitch political pundits are losers. And yeah, that's kind of true. I mean, I'm sure there are exceptions, but like I've seen a lot of them. I obviously there's Guantanamo Bay, woke Bay, Hassan Piker, who thinks America deserved 9/11.
Now look, Twitch's political pundits loserdom has it's clearly had to have been impacted by Vouch being banned. Like that raised the coolness of Twitch up immensely. So I'm sure there's a lot of losers, but it can't be any worse than YouTube, honestly.
He wants you to make a Twitch.
I probably will. I don't know.
We want the skeleton. We want the skeleton.
It's been forever since I looked at Twitch. Does it save all of your streams?
Well, it didn't save the first 3 since I got premium and streamed over there because unfortunately I was a boomer and didn't realize that you have to go into your channel dashboard and you have to go under your settings and you have to switch a tab. Basically, you have to flip a switch over there that will allow it to save all streams and recordings over there for 14 days because I'm not an affiliate or a partner yet. Once I am approved as an affiliate, once we hit 50, the thresholds are left. I've already met the other thresholds in terms of viewing time and stream time. But the thresholds that remain for us are 50 followers, which last I checked before we went live tonight, I had 8. So we're getting there. And you need to have 3 people watching simultaneously on average for all of the time that you've been viewing that month, which we were at about 0.7 or whatever. That'll change. I mean, we got a lot of people on Twitch tonight. We're up to 9 people on Twitch, so that'll up the average. We'll probably make it there this month at this rate. Once that happens and once I become an affiliate, then I will be able to have all of the streams and recordings that are broadcast to Twitch be saved under my Twitch channel there for 60 days. And then once you hit an affiliate, that doesn't change. And so even if you're Ninja, even if you are Cypher PK, even if you're like these huge streamers over there on like Fortnite and stuff, 60 days is the cap, which I don't like. That's one thing that I like about YouTube is that your content remains for posterity. So
yeah, I might fuck around on Twitch. But I'm not. I will be on YouTube.
Yeah.
For this.
Oh, Reese, are you still there? Okay, so we lost Reese's audio. He'll be back momentarily. We will wrap up the stream fairly soon. I did want to keep this stream around, the 90-minute mark, but of course we went a little bit later. But we have the gun shark here. Oh, Reese is back. We have the gun shark.
Yeah, sorry about that. We want the skeleton. That's funny.
He says the gun shark says we should recognize Taiwan as a nation. Nixon fucked up. No, I don't want to get into like a long sort of thing tonight because we can talk about this tomorrow. But Nixon didn't screw up. Nixon realized that the Soviets were pointing at the time about 25 to 30,000 nuclear weapons at America. And by the 1980s, that was about 40,000 nuclear weapons at America. And realized that if a nuclear war broke out between the Soviets and the West, the Soviets would nuke China before the West, that they were such enemies. And so he realized, we can reach out to Mao because they hate the Soviet Union, and we can use them. And I agree with that, because for the same reason why I support working with Saudi Arabia against Iran, which is you can't take everybody on at once. You have to have allies. And the Soviet Union, sure, you can say, well, Mao killed a lot of people, and that's absolutely true. But Mao only had about 100 nuclear weapons, and he wasn't that much of a threat to America. And he was a useful alliance against the Soviets, because his massive land army would not pose a threat to America, but it would pose a threat to the Soviet Union. I support what Nixon did. I would have done the same thing, but I wouldn't have shifted the P5 status over to communist China. I would have kept that with Taiwan, with the acknowledgement that, we're not going to say it to Beijing. They can figure it out, but we can have this short-term alliance for the next 20 or 30 years. But the Republic of Taiwan, the Republic of China is China, and after the Soviets are done, we're coming for you next. That's what should have been the implicit understanding, right? Kind of like how we'll work with Stalin, but bear in mind, once Hitler's dead in the ground, we're coming for you. That idea. So
I think that, regardless of that, standing by while communism took over China, it will be, and it should be seen as one of the greatest failures of modern history.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that, because we obviously we weren't on the best terms with China after the Second World War, but they were an ally. We weren't enemies. We really should have taken the precious time we had to further push our values onto them, so to speak, and try to get them to understand that was the proper way forward if they wanted to be a part of a broader global community that would work together to prevent another conflict like they'd just gone through. But that's not what happened.
America should have offered far more material support to the Kuomintang against Mao's forces, and the West dropped the ball on that. And then later on, when the Korean War broke out, and Mao sent 1.5 million young Chinese men to go and die in Korea for Kim Il-sung, including his own son, mind you. Mao's son lost his life defending the Kim dynasty over in the Korean War. Douglas MacArthur said to Truman, well, we got all these air bases that are operating out of Manchuria with Soviet pilots and North Korean pilots that are flying Soviet aircraft in assistance of the Korean People's Army, and they're shooting down American Sabres, they're shooting down American aircraft. What are we going to do? They've stormed over the border. Are we seriously not allowed to hit those bases that are attacking us in Korea, in Megali? And he suggested dropping some thermonuclear weapons on those bases. And for that, Truman had him fired. Now, I've said before that I admire Truman in many ways, that I like Truman's containment policy of the Soviet Union. But one of the weaknesses that Truman had was that he didn't go far enough on Red China. He did the best he could to contain the Soviets within Europe, but in Asia, he didn't do enough, in my view. He didn't do enough, and we can have a debate or whatever about that at some point. We can talk about that more, but I think that if America was serious about taking the new status quo up to the Yalu River, liberating North Korea in 1951, and basically saying, yes, the Chinese have just sent 1.5 million troops over the border, but we're willing to use nuclear weapons here and clear it out. It would have, I don't think it would have led to a nuclear war with the Soviets. Truman was worried that it would lead to a nuclear war with the Soviets, but
if we attack the Chinese.
Yeah, but the Soviets only got nuclear weapons in 1949. Their nuclear arsenal probably numbered 4 or 5 atomic bombs, whereas by that point, America I should clarify, they weren't thermonuclear weapons at the time. America's capacity in 1950, I believe, consisted of like basically more crude boosted fission devices, so like 400 kiloton type range, which is pretty potent. It's about 20 times the strength of the Hiroshima device. But the point is that the Soviets only had like top at most like 5 or 10 nuclear warheads that were in the 10 to 20 kiloton range. That wouldn't have done very much in Korea because Korea is a very mountainous area. So if the Soviets used nukes against America in Korea, America would have wiped them out in Europe, because at that point America had a nuclear arsenal somewhere around 400 or 500 nuclear weapons, and they had the delivery mechanisms to strike against Soviet cities and bases in Eastern Europe. So it wouldn't have worked out well for Stalin. So I don't think Stalin would have gotten involved beyond providing air assistance to Kim Il-sung. I think Truman dropped the ball on that, and we saw that because China wasn't liberated and the opportunity wasn't seized. Mao went on to kill about 100 million Chinese people over the course of his rule in China, most of that through famine and the purges that were done there. And we've seen that they've brought upon us a pandemic now. There have been multiple coronaviruses. There was the SARS outbreak, of course, but this one's approaching the 250,000 mark in terms of how many people have died from it, and almost all of them. I mean, here's the thing. I know that they're lying. We've talked about how their numbers are off, and there's a lot more people that have died in China. But it is true that after this is all done and the dust has settled, a lot more people will have died from this outside of communist China, just objectively, than will have died inside, even though they're lying about the numbers. So we're the bigger victims now. And I feel that one of the reasons why people were less quick to act against China during the purges and everything was that the victims back then and the victims of the famine were purely within Red China. But now that the victims are mostly outside of Red China, I at least hope that this will provide a boost and impetus to the political will to finally get tough on these losers. So in Beijing. So
Well,
that's my little rant there. But
it's-
we should wrap this up pretty
It's
soon.
very warranted. I think the thing about the lesson we can take about Truman's approach is I'm sure that he felt more concerned about Europe because obviously Soviet influence in Europe. We had a bunch of allies in Europe, whereas in Asia that was a less certain prospect. We didn't have so many allies in Asia. In fact, we just fought many enemies in Asia. So, but I think that kind of thinking is very faulty, and you should. It's the same kind of meme where people say there's no reason to go to war unless the enemy is literally breaking down your gate and invading your land, or even maybe invading your allies' land. But even then, some people don't believe in that. But we should take note of what's happening in the world, even in areas where we didn't have the most influence, such as Asia during the time of the Truman administration. We should be involved because in our lack of involvement had major consequences that we are still feeling to this day. We really could have, and I get it. It's a woulda, coulda kind of game, and it's hindsight is 2020. I understand we're Monday morning quarterbacking all of U.S. history right now, but really, like, we could have done so much more than we did. So I find it funny that people think that we're not skeptical of U.S. foreign policy, and that's blatantly untrue. Because if I had had some level of power at the time, I would have wanted more done. I would not have been satisfied with the ideas, the status quo of that time. I think that a lot of people were probably they were war fatigued after World War II. They were scared. They were scared by the potency of the weapons they had created. They were scared that these weapons were now appearing in the hands of others. But really, like, that was the time. It was not the time to be fearful. It was the time to act and to ensure that that World War II's victory actually lasted and meant something.
Well,
Our,
yeah,
our inability to really crack down on the Soviets and prevent them from getting a weapon like that at all led to a decades-long Cold War in which realistically the world could have ceased to be as we know it.
yeah, yeah.
That is what isolationism leads to. It leads to
That's
potential worldwide catastrophe.
that's the thing. That's the thing is that you'd say, well, we're Monday morning quarterbacking and all this stuff, but there are
But they
lessons
knew
that
the Soviets would want those weapons.
yeah, yeah. There are lessons that we can take from that and those mistakes, and we can learn that. Well, in 1949, the Soviets in 1950, the Soviets probably had at most a dozen crude atomic bombs, and then by 1989, they had 40,000 nuclear weapons, ranging from atomic low yield tactical devices all the way up to Tsar Bomba level 50 megaton yield thermonuclear devices that were all targeted at America and her allies. And so in a span of 40 years, they went from having about 5 nuclear weapons to 40,000 nuclear weapons. And America at that point had about 25,000 nuclear weapons. And so when you think about 65,000 nuclear weapons in an exchange, that would be the end of the world for all intents and purposes. And so you could say a war in 1950, a nuclear war between China and the Soviet Union over Korea, that would have killed a lot of people. Yeah, but then you're missing the fact that we got lucky that there wasn't a nuclear war when there were 65,000 nuclear weapons involved. Like, that's a lot more people would have died if it went hot in 1986 than if it went hot in 1953. And so the lesson here is that with North Korea, right now they have between 100 and 200 crude atomic devices. If we don't do anything about them, or if we do these rounds of negotiations where they lie to us and we go home with photo ops and stuff with Trump, with their leader, and think, oh, they're no longer a threat anymore. Well, one day by the 2030s, 2040s, they're going to have 1,800 or 1,900 nuclear weapons. And they won't just be crude atomic devices by that point. They'll have thermonuclear weapons that they've got loaded onto MIRV configurations in road mobile topol systems that they can target at Washington, D.C. And they've already proven in testing by that point that they can reach that range in the South Pacific and fire them off. And, they announce the coordinates they're aiming for before they do the test. And then, oh, we were only off by a mile or two. Do you really want that to be the new status quo? And then you say, well, but if we did anything, it would be a nuclear war with them. And it's like, yeah, but it would be a nuclear war against the power that has about 100 nuclear weapons right now that are crude atomic weapons, where you could probably shoot a lot of them down before they reach targets in Korea. And the war would almost entirely be localized or regionalized to Korea and Japan. When they have 1,900, it's no longer a local theater level situation. You're losing Chicago, you're losing New York, you're losing DC, you're losing everything. And that's the point. And that's why when they get to that level, America will simply say, okay, you're invading South Korea and you're threatening us with all these nukes. We'll let you have South Korea and you can take those 27,000 American troops prisoners of war. We're not willing to lose all of our cities to save Seoul. So it was a good run, but communism can take over. That's what's going to happen. And I hate to be right about that, but I know it's going to happen. Some point this century, I think it's going to be in the first half of this century, probably the 2030s, 2040s, when they have close to 1,500 to 1,800 nuclear weapons, and they've already proven the delivery mechanisms. They'll just invade the South with conventional weaponry, and America will abandon the South, and the South will surrender very quickly. And then NATO will fall apart because all those states will realize that America's defense means nothing. So, and the world will go from being dominated by a liberal hegemon to being in the descent into the darkness. Yeah, Eurasia will descend into darkness, from England to Vietnam, from Australia up to Norway will all become dominated and controlled by Moscow and Beijing. So and that will be the end of democracy as we know it in the world for perhaps forever, as Robert Kagan points out, because he says, the good guys don't have to win at the end. That's not written in stone anywhere. If the good guys fuck up, if the good guys give up, if the good guys say war bad, we don't want to fight this war, we'll just wait until they have the upper hand. Well, then maybe that's the status quo for 100,000 years until there'll eventually be a reawakening of the Enlightenment, and then we have to go through all of this again and do the revolutions and everything. And it's like, do you really want to have to go back through thousands of years of darkness? I'm not down for that. I want to defend the West. So if you support what we're doing here, if you support what we're calling for here, you support our attempt to alter the political discourse in a direction that's actually sane and pro-democracy, you can go and check out my Patreon at patreon.com/superpowerbroadcasting. And I would appreciate it if you could contribute to that. So, but we're going to go to Reese's closing remarks here. We're coming up on the 2.5 hour mark in the stream. So thanks for coming on, Reese.
Good point. It's amazing how much just the two of us talked, honestly. Even if it's just us, we still managed to to find a way to stretch it. I wanted to say that I find it a bit disappointing that apparently after engaging in the Second World War, which was devastating, it was, you know, at that point, obviously, and still very much is, like the most like horrific war. We didn't learn all we could have from it. We didn't seem to take into account that there would be other leaders like Mussolini, like Hitler, and, you know, sure, they were temporarily on our side, like Stalin, but we really should have kept him under a closer check. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I know everything or Monday morning quarterback it. I understand that. I understand that the world was fatigued. The world didn't want to fight anymore. The world, and realistically, after that, we shouldn't have had to. We shouldn't have had to deal with anything else. It's not fair. I understand that. I really do. But life isn't fair. And that is what happened. That is the course that history took. And if we wanted that war to mean anything, we understood what really won us that war at the end was our destructive invention. We should have known other people would want similar weapons. We should have known the consequences that would come from that, the ramifications of another power getting weapons of that magnitude. That should have been a real shock to the system. We should have been as proactive as we possibly could have been. Now, that was not the time. That was not the time to just let things happen in Asia. Oh, because we don't have a presence there. Well, get a presence there. Get a stronger presence in Asia. Because even if we didn't, it is a very important part of the world. Obviously, it was then and it still is today. We can't just ignore it. We can't just sit here and say, oh, it doesn't matter. It's not America. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's not Europe. The world is much smaller than people would like to think. The world is a very small place, and we feel the ripple effects of everything. And I really wish that history had gone in such a way that we could have avoided a Cold War, that we could have avoided a communist uprising in China, that we could have avoided the conditions that would create the coronavirus. But guess what? That world doesn't exist. Now, we can bitch all we want about the past. Now here's the real test. We can look at the world as it is today and say, do we want to repeat the same mistakes of the past? Do we want to look at the people of the past who didn't do shit when they needed to? Do we want to follow in their footsteps, or do we want to actually improve upon the world and not leave it in a state of consistent decay? Sure, there's a lot of great things that have been fought for and achieved. I'm still making sure I'm online. Okay, we're good.
Yep.
I'm scared now because I'm on a roll here.
Yep.
I have shit to say. I really feel like this needs to be said. We achieved a lot by defeating the forces of fascism. We truly did. But that can only go so far.
that really can. And if that victory and the sacrifices that were made for it are not taken seriously, if we don't understand, because after, before that, I mean, like, people don't understand. America has not been a superpower for that long. It really hasn't been that long. Like, in certain people, they've been alive so long that during their lifetime, America was not a superpower. That is how recent this revelation is.
No, you're totally right, because there were times throughout human history when the unquestioned dominant hegemon would be like China or the Roman Empire for centuries in a row, like multiple centuries in a row. America hasn't even been a superpower for 1 century. So
yeah, no, in some people's lifetimes. And it really changes a lot about a nation. It changes a lot about your responsibilities and obligations. The world has been made a better place because of America's status as the world's superpower. But that is not set in stone. That could very easily change if it is not taken seriously. So the real question is what happens now in the present moment. People might feel powerless. People might feel like their voice doesn't matter. Every voice matters. The ideas that we enable and normalize, even on a platform like this, it matters. The people who are in power in Washington are directly representing the will of the people, the will of their constituents, what they want. People don't get put into power by accident. The people who are in power, they represent the overwhelming opinions of those who voted for them. They voted for them for a reason. People might say, oh, I have no power. I can't influence anything. That's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. What we are doing right now could change minds, could change the world eventually, if enough people cared. We, at our present moment, we look back on history and we immortalize it and we turn it into myth almost. We are part of history. And what are people going to say about us? What are people going to say about the people of this time and what they did to preserve the liberal world order? I don't think they're going to be saying a lot of good things, honestly. And I wouldn't blame them, because I myself am very disappointed in our track record. I'm making sure I'm still good.
Yeah.
Am I still good,
absolutely.
Kev? Okay.
You're still good. And I'll just state in there,
no.
When it comes to the Chiron here, what I have going up is I say, your support is critically important to changing the political culture and saving the West. That's exactly what we're talking about here, is that, this is the one area that I have agreement with Stephen Bannon on, is he said, what are you going to do? Are you going to get a bunch of people to vote for low taxes in a country where the political culture is in favor of high taxes? No, you have to change the political culture first. And he talks about that in his view with his alt-right agenda. Well, for us, we're trying to get to a world in which, regardless of whether the liberal or the conservative wins the election, there will be a hawk in power. Because if we don't proactively expand and uphold the values and the interests of our civilization, we will eventually be overrun by the illiberal axis and the authoritarian scourge. And so it starts with changing the political culture. And right now, the political culture, the discourse on YouTube and Twitch is dominated by brainlets who say things like, we're bad. Oh, 6 million people have to flee Syria and 600,000 are dead now and thousands are gassed. But we're bad. Let's not do anything about it. Or, oh, that's actually Putin's sphere of influence. Screw the Ukrainians. They can suffer. That's not our business. Or, oh, Russia's in our backyard in Venezuela. Well, if we did anything, that's imperialism, bro. Or, oh, you want to remove a dictator from the Middle East? Well, I got news, bro. I read Edward Said in my political science class, and it turns out that you're white and you're trying to tell brown people how to live, and that's their culture, and they're meant to be ruled by despots. So if you do anything, you're just being Orientalist and imperialist. Okay, we're bad. Okay, don't do war because war bad, okay? And of course, the irony is, it's like we don't enjoy war or anything, but we're the ones who are going to tell you here. If you wait until they come for you, a lot more people are going to die. So the war, it's not a choice between war and peace. It's a choice between war on the upper hand or war on the lower hand. So
it's just keeping things realistic, honestly, and that's that's a case in point why people's voices matter. I mean, it can consider how the public has turned against being involved in the world just based on a couple of loudmouths, based on a couple of Michael Moores here and there. Like that has immense power. It doesn't mean that they're right. It just means that they were loud and they were tapping into people's rage and frustration. And those people, their lives weren't going great. They needed a scapegoat. They needed something to blame. And so this is an easy one. How could you possibly be in favor of a war? Wars are terrible. People die in wars. They're bloody. They're awful. And that is the kind of mindset that infects people, and it makes us so ill-equipped to take on the real challenges of this world. I'm so torn. Part of me is optimistic because I do think that there are a number of people who see that movement for what it is, and they say, no, I want no part of that. And they might not even be as hawkish as we are.
yeah,
But they don't go that far. There is a spectrum there for sure. But on the other hand, I look at the state of the world right at this moment. I see a world in chaos, and it does make me fearful for the future. Because even while the world is in chaos, our enemies like Russia, like China, are still attempting to push the envelope. They don't care. They don't care. This might seem like the most improper time ever. They're still trying to push their influence because they really don't care. They don't care if
yeah.
people in the world are sick. I mean, they don't care if their own people are sick. It's just, it is what it is to them. That's the kind of enemies that we have. And it gives them almost a strange advantage where they
Oh, we lost Reese's audio again. We'll wait a minute for his audio to kick in, and then we'll let him finish, and then we'll go to my closing remarks. I know there's a meme saying that this stream is going to go 4 hours. I got to be up at 6 a.m. for work. It is not going 6 hours or 4 hours. That's not happening tonight. But I do want to say thanks to Reese for coming on. The chat's died down a little. Highlight, we got Arthur Izar here. He says, we're bad. Yeah, that's the Kyle meme right there. Mr. Mackey, you know. We got Talking Fridge says Hillary Clinton wants freedom. Trump wants autocracy. Got Trump is chump. Yeah, we got a lot of comments here. And then Reese has lost the connection. We'll see if he returns. He's getting close to concluding his remarks. But if he does come back, we'll of course welcome him back into the stream. Thanks to those of you on Twitch for being with us. We have 4 viewers on Twitch. Thanks to those of you on YouTube for being with us tonight. We have 16 viewers on YouTube. We'll give Reese another little bit here to get his connection in order. Let's see what else is oh, and there was the Prince of Warmongers to return to finish his remarks.
I'm very sorry. I'll wrap it up. I'm a blabbermouth. You know this. I was just saying, to bring it full circle, I really hope that the world learns a lesson, from what we're dealing with now. It's easy to look at the past and lament what we should have done, but the real question is, what are we going to do now? We have a world in chaos, and China is inevitably going to try to integrate itself back into the world. It's going to be like, hey guys, we're back.
Yeah.
Welcome to the party. And what are we going to say? What is going to be the response? We have learned, hopefully, something valuable. We've learned that their government is completely untrustworthy and should not be among the ranks of other nations. It's a joke, really. But there's going to be a lot of people who don't understand that or decry that as being, oh, that you're such a Western supremacist. How dare you favor your own way of life over this country that created this horrible virus, the conditions of this country, where that would even be possible. No, it's not a good time. It's, and I don't want to sound like a total doomer, because really, realistically, I am an optimistic person, I'd say.
Yeah, you're pretty bloomy for sure, but you also can be
I can be lighthearted. I got a pep in my step, but I need to be realistic too. This is a very dark time. This is one of the darkest times in modern history, and we are living right in the middle of it. Like this is, people might think they're unimportant when they compare themselves to a Churchill or a Stalin. We are part of history right now. What we do matters. What our leaders do matters. Maybe we should have better leaders. Maybe we should strive for better political movements that actually, here's a shocking idea, a political movement and a political party that strives to support the conditions that make our country better than China. A political movement that favors democracy and liberalism and conditions that would not have created COVID-19. That's the kind of world we should be striving for. But instead,
100%.
I see people just yearning to embrace the decay of the liberal world.
Yes.
Well, you know what? If you're someone like that, you don't have to live here. You don't have to live here. There's a gulag with your name on it. I'm sure you'll like it. That's where you belong. I know that's mean, and people, oh, how could you say that? I don't give a shit anymore. I'm past giving fucks. If you are someone who is blatantly anti-American, you constantly decry America and its allies, and you favor America's enemies, I don't fucking want you here. You don't deserve to be here. You don't deserve the benefits and securities of this nation. I don't appreciate you being here. Oh, you get to talk all your shit from your cushy pad or from Uncle Jank's basement. Good for you. Meanwhile, there are people who are suffering in the countries whose governments you make apologetics for. Disgusting. Those people would give anything to be in your shoes, to be in fucking America, where they don't have to go to the gulag, or they don't have to be under some horrible Sharia law system.
Absolutely. I've said this before. It's like an old meme on my page, basically, to all those people who call me a dirty neocon and all this stuff. I'm like, well, I can see on your profile, you live in, let's say, like, I don't know, like Reading, Pennsylvania or something. And you're like, you don't live in North Korea. If you lived in North Korea and you got taken to the back by the secret police, you'd be begging for some neoconservatism pretty soon, too. So, but they don't care. They don't care. Some of them are honest that they lack the empathy. I've had other people say to me before that that they would care and they would that they personally would want to be rescued in that situation by America, but that they can understand why America wouldn't, because America needs to protect the white race and all this stuff and not get involved in wars for Jews or whatever is their term. And you're like, and so their whole thing is that they want a world in which every country is basically a small planet and every country is just its own insular authoritarian fascist system, which of course that's impossible. If that really existed, they would all go to war with each other overnight for the glory of their leaders. Like that would be a much more dangerous world than what we have today. But this whole thing, as you're saying about agents of history and whatnot, a lot of people who did go on to influence history did start in media, did have a big impact in media. We can talk about leaders, figures, Ronald Reagan's, Winston Churchill's, and whatnot. But we should also remember, Murdoch has an effect on history. People, Turner has an effect on history. People that are involved in media do have a role in terms of providing, a perspective on things, and that can influence people. And what I've noticed, and why I created this channel, was that in the future of media, which is the online space, the political discourse is entirely lacking a liberal hawk and a neoconservative perspective. And so that's like our first objective is to hawk pill the electorate, and then from there, the political victories and the political leaders, the names that we'll remember for all time, will be established. But the first step in that fight is winning over the hearts and minds of people that have been fed poison. That looks cool and swaggy and woke and hip and all this stuff, and sounds like you're on the good side because you fight the warmongers or whatever, but all you're doing is apologetics for dead dictators' boots. So
Absolutely.
But
I'll leave my thoughts to that, and I know that you need to wrap it up, so we can just do that. But,
yeah,
thanks for having me on, man. It was it was good.
Thanks for coming on. We got up to about 9 people on Twitch earlier, and we had some people. Yeah, we had some people in the comments there from Twitch that this is their first time being exposed to this channel, and they get it. They see just as what I see, is that there really is no voice like this. I mean, obviously there's been Nightmare Fuel on YouTube and Anthony Avis Dubisson and other people with political channels. But as far as the big prominent channels go, like the 100K plus tier subscriber base, the most reasonable people are people like David Pakman. And like David Pakman is basically an anti-interventionist, just the same. He's just not an insane conspiracist about it. Like there's no there's just not a big prominent voice to the defenders of the West anymore. And it's unfortunate because this is the future. This is where the action is online, and I cannot sit by and let those who would seek to destroy the fabric of Western society to own the libs, and you might be thinking that's in reference to some right wingers. No, Kyle and Jimmy and June hate liberals. All these communists hate liberals just the same. It's like liberalism. When we talk about the liberal world order, I just want to make that clear for people that this might be their first exposure to this channel. When we talk about liberalism and the liberal world order, we're not talking about Democrats or Justin Trudeau or whatever, because like Justin Trudeau is the Liberal Party in Canada. It's like, no, liberalism is individual rights, accountable governments, economic rights, personal freedoms, the fundamentals of what makes the Western world the enlightened West. In other words, John Bolton is a liberal, just as Hillary Clinton is a liberal. They're different parties.
If you're a modern conservative and you're not like a trad con, you are.
Yeah, then you're a liberal.
You're totally a liberal. Like
George W. Bush was a liberal essentially. So
yeah, I mean, like that's just how it goes. We have disagreements. I mean, some people push the envelope. You can have maybe a slightly more pro big government liberal.
Yeah,
but ultimately it's very clear that it's that all of these people can be grouped under that label. But no, a lot of the prominent commentators, they hate liberals. They very, very vocally, very openly are illiberal. It's not something you have to grasp at straws for. It's something they freely admit.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go to my closing remarks here, and because we are coming up on the 3-hour mark here.
Finish it up, Kevin.
Yeah, I really don't have too much else to say because Reese gave a very eloquent and impassioned defense of the West and what we're doing here. And all that I've really got to say is that, you know, my closing remarks are basically at this point just a pitch to the community out there that if you appreciate having a hawkish voice on social media and on online media, I would invite you to please consider contributing to my Patreon. And also, as well, you can follow me on Twitter. You can go and follow Reese on Twitter as well. Go and subscribe to Reese if you haven't done so already at Nightmare Fuel on YouTube. And ultimately, what really helps us right now, what really helps this channel is that, you know, this is a small channel. You know, huge props to the patrons that we already have here that contribute, you know, about 65 or so Canadian dollars a month right now to the channel. But I still work full time, right? Like, I don't have the time to do a big marketing campaign with it like these larger established channels do, like Kyle Kalinske or David Packman or the Young Turks or whatnot. And so what would really help me out is if you could go and share this video to various online platforms. If you could share other videos I've done to online platforms to get this out, tell your friends and whatnot that are interested in politics or whatever to go and subscribe to the channel. And you know, if you're listening and you watch these streams and stuff, but you don't necessarily agree with everything that any of us are saying here, you can still subscribe. Like subscription, even then, you know, to stay up to date with what we're doing. Like I'm subscribed to Reese, for example, and Reese and I don't agree on everything, you know. But at the end of the day, my hope is that we'll build a community here that will go on to rival these illiberal clowns on the left and right, such as Kyle Kalinske and Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes and so on and so forth. And we'll have a firm base of people who are unabashedly and unapologetically defenders of the liberal world order of America, the West, NATO, human rights, democracy, capitalism, and that they're not ashamed to say it, because I know that it's a thing that raises eyebrows these days if you say that you believe that American intervention in some place is justified. But we need to get back to a place of normalcy like what we used to have, where if you said American interests should be harmed, that would raise eyebrows. If you said that America deserved 9/11, that would raise eyebrows. If you said these sorts of things, that America is actually the bad guy, that would raise eyebrows. We need to stigmatize treason again, and we need to remove the stigma around the hawks. And that's kind of the objective of what we're doing here. And so, as well as bringing to you the news from our perspective as we see things. And so, you know, the viewership is kind of dropping off right now as we come up on 3 a.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, or 12 a.m. Pacific. I've obviously got to go to bed. We'll let Reese go. But thank you for watching, everybody, and have a good night. Stay based.
Buenas noches.